Hello and welcome. I'm Ian Unger.
And I'm Logan Flaming.
And together we host the Ultimate Fan Podcast,
Woo!
the show where the greatest fans discuss the greatest in entertainment across the universe.
And in this case, the Marvel Universe.
Exactly. This episode, we're going to be talking about our immediate reactions to Marvel's Black Panther.
Woo!
We just got back from the theater. We just saw it, so it's all fresh. And giving our official ultimate ranking in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. With us today, we have several guests that will be contributing their thoughts as well. First, we have...
I'm Isaac Reynolds.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Cassie Unger.
And we're so excited to have them here with us.
I'm stoked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super
Alright.
pumped.
Let's
So-
get into it.
We're getting
Yeah.
paid for this, right?
Yeah, wrong podcast.
Did I?
Half us are empty.
Can I say my claim to fame? Getting on the Reddit
Yes.
front
Oh,
page.
yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So yes, I was on the Reddit front page. Just wanna
So
put that in.
Kevin is a big deal
Claim to fame.
on the interwebs.
Yes.
Yes, he is.
He is in
I have
the Eternity
interwebbed.
Club.
Yes, the Eternity
that
Club.
sounds
Is it
like
bad to
heaven.
admit that I've never been on Reddit?
No.
Okay.
That's
I've been on Reddit.
Your nerd card is
Yeah.
revoked, Isaac, if you haven't been on Reddit.
Please leave.
There's
We're done.
wonders
We're
of
done
fan
here.
theories that you are missing out on.
Speaking
So
of
much
nerd
good
cards, none of us were allowed in this room without flashing our nerd card at the door. Just so for our listeners, you know,
Set
this
the
is
standard.
this is a very exclusive club. We are all nerds.
Yeah. No, I am. Yeah. Absolutely.
Open
Yes.
caring nerds.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to open the discussion up by talking about our expectations as we went into the film, just to kind of premise, like, you know, if people didn't like something or they did like something, this kind of lets us think about, oh, maybe that's why, because I was hoping for more James Earl Jones. Where was he?
This ain't the Lion
Why-
King, folks.
There
Just
was
because it's in
no-
Africa does not mean James Earl Jones is supposed to be in
I
it.
just kept
Wasn't it
waiting.
Lion King though?
There
It
was like a specific Lion King reference.
There was like the
just
brothers
kept
who are
waiting
kings,
Yeah.
For the
Yeah.
whole
And
part.
and the son, and then
where,
the
like,
son who came back.
The whole tribe
like-
was gonna the whole part in the king making ceremony where they're gonna lift him up over the cliff and sing.
Yeah.
That never
There were several
happened.
times where I said,
Wildly
I
disappointing.
can't wait to be king during the movie.
Okay, so can we get a meme of that though? Can we get
It'll
Forrest
be-
Whitaker holding
Yeah.
up Chadwick Boseman?
Yes.
But it'll
Yes.
just be
Yes.
it'll
There
just
we
be
go.
their faces. I'm sure that's already on the internet. There's no way that's not
I
already.
mean,
a
it
thing.
is the internet.
Yeah.
They're
Everything
on it.
Is on the
If it's
internet.
on Reddit, Kevin will know.
Don't worry.
I
I'm on
won't,
it.
though.
He's in the Eternity Club.
Yes.
So let's start with Isaac.
Yeah. So I don't read comics. So I am a film junkie only.
You can leave the room now.
I was gonna say, did we do a
We
double
checked
check
his
on his nerd card?
Yeah.
Jeez.
What happened?
No, but I
It's
love
fake.
the film. So, and that's what started to get me kind of interested in them. So, going into Black Panther, I honestly didn't have any expectations. Was going solely off.
Did you expect it to be good?
I did. I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I expected it to be good, and I think that was based off just in the last week, seeing scores on Rotten
Yeah, the
Tomatoes.
reviews.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Reviews, critic scores, and then talking to people who saw screenings on Thursday night, that kind of thing. I think that kind of boosted my expectations a little bit, but I tried to kind of stay away from any extra trailers, reading any reviews, any stuff like that. I wanted to go into it on a pretty clean slate. And what I did appreciate, not knowing any kind of the backstory of Wakanda and the Black Panther and all that, was
You did have Civil War going into it.
I did, yes. So I
Yeah,
at least
yeah.
knew a little bit,
Yeah.
but not knowing any of the history set up in the lore and the comics, I still felt like I knew what was going on, and I knew these characters, and I got immersed in the story pretty immediately without having any kind of prior back knowledge. So-
Yeah, as a movie, it works.
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Unlike Suicide Squad. Moving on, Kevin.
No.
There will be. I
No,
like
no,
to say
no,
that there's
no,
not going to
no.
be any more
That-
DCU
We
shade,
do
but there
not.
probably will be.
Speaking of
Aw.
that, I feel like I was thinking about this on the way over here. I feel like with the soundtrack, they took the idea of what Suicide Squad tried to do,
Oh,
like
yeah.
have a bunch
Yeah.
of pop
And
songs
made
and,
it
have it.
Yes.
awesome.
But then they actually had the movie to back it up. So.
Exactly.
Oh.
So true.
Okay.
Oh, burn.
We don't need
Moving
to
on
drag
from
through
broken
that
films,
backwater.
Kevin.
Yes.
What were your expectations going into this movie?
I mean, same. Like I had seen reviews online. I didn't actually read them, but they all said high scores, and they're also all talking about what it meant as a film to be a primarily black cast. So I knew there would be that racial undertone in it, which I was really excited to see how Marvel would do that. And, you know, because Marvel movies usually don't say anything. They want to. They try.
Yeah.
The
but
best do, like
the
Winter
best
Soldier.
do.
Yeah.
But most
It's mostly
of them
good
are
and evil.
good,
Yeah.
dumb fun. And I mean that in the best ways. I'm a huge fan, but
Yeah.
this
Quality.
movie-
They're quality good dumb.
quality, good, dumb fun. But I thought this movie could actually say something about real issues that are happening today. So I was very excited to see how that would play out on the big screen.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I think the movie definitely handles the current issues of refugees and
Yeah, I was
global
shocked by that.
We
nationalism.
can talk about this now. We're still talking about
Yeah.
expectations.
We're
We're
getting
getting
Logan.
into it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We got to ease into it.
All right.
Yes.
Cassie.
I just had such wildly magnanimous expectations for this movie because I
big
think,
words.
I mean, T'Challa wasn't my favorite part of Civil War, but he was one of them, and he was up there. He was super. I thought he was just so great. He was such a great part of the film, and they just like introduced him right off, and it was just like bam, like I already am just in love with this character, and I've been excited from this movie since like the after credits teaser. Ian's been freaking out about it forever, and yeah, he made
Trailers were so good. for
Trailers
this
were
movie.
so
Marketing for this
so
movie was so on
good.
point.
Yes,
Like
it was.
every
It was
single time,
incredibly-
like the
yeah.
teaser came out and then the trailer came out, and every
Poster. the
every
poster was
single
great.
thing
Yeah.
was just
Poster's
like
incredible.
I'm just so ridiculously psyched for this movie, and I've just been lowering my expectations for like 3 months now because I'm just like this movie can't possibly.
She hasn't been.
I
They've
have been. I have been. I should say I've been trying to. I've been making an effort to
Yeah.
try to like have reasonable expectations, and then like it came out, and I just I heard nothing but good things about it. So my expectations going in were very high. They were very, very high.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm lost at words right now.
He's
Uh,
lost at words.
Yeah, so like the graphics you were talking about, like I love the whole like this sort of techno African.
Oh, it was
like,
incredible. Like
yeah.
we haven't seen something like we've seen like Asgard and stuff like that, like the cool otherworldly places and
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy, but like for something like that, when they go through the first time and you see all the cool buildings and stuff, that's supposed to be in Africa, which is such a cool concept because Africa is always supposed to be this low-tech, poverty-stricken country, which is the whole idea of Black
Continent.
Panther of this. Sorry,
Continent.
Excuse me. Continent.
Africa
is not a
is
country?
Indeed.
Oh,
A
man.
continent.
That's terrible.
It's all right. That's
It's
the
all
first
right.
one of the night.
But just to see that contrast, and that's why Black Panther is such a cool idea.
Yeah.
To see that, like, it's cool.
We also really
Yeah.
haven't seen a hero as a king yet. Well, no, we've seen Thor, but Thor's been rejecting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For 3 movies, he's been rejecting the throne.
But he took it at the end of
He
the
took
last
it at the
movie.
end. But we all know
Finally.
Thanos is his nation
His
Asgard
nation are
blew up.
refugees.
Yeah, they are
They are
Yes.
refugees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Thanos is presumably gonna kill them all at the beginning of Infinity
No.
Spoilers.
I mean the
We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
now I want an end credit scene in Black Panther where it's the Asgardians showing up on their door like, can we
Hey guys.
can we
Can
camp
we
out?
here?
You take refugees.
We do
also,
now.
just putting this, I don't think we've crossed any boundaries yet, but letting everybody know this is a review for Black Panther, and it is not spoiler free. So there are
We gonna spoil
spoilers
the frick out
galore.
of it.
yeah,
So
spoiler heavy.
if you're worried about that, go see the movie first, and then you can.
What are you doing listening to a podcast about it?
Yeah, before you. All right.
I've done that.
So I'll give you my expectations.
Confession.
Spoiler free ones though.
Yeah.
I am I the resident Black Panther like
Fan
guru right now?
Obsessed?
I think so. Out of
Uh,
all of us, I think you have the most knowledge of the character in the world coming to
and
the
the
movie.
most history.
Have you read
with
any
it.
of the comics?
Yes.
Okay, maybe
Like
not.
I've read Black Panther and like adventure stuff, and then I've read Black Panther's solo issues here and there, and I'm like aware of most of his major runs in the comics,
Yeah.
but by no means am I the end all
Yeah.
of Black Panther knowledge.
So Logan and I have talked about this tons of times with almost every Marvel film, but it was probably around Iron Man 3 when I realized I had to like separate my attachments to the comic book characters from like what I was watching in the movies, because I was going into every movie like I just had this built up image in my head of like from the comics, and then I just get my like hopes and dreams shattered because I was like, oh frick,
Sad
like
existence you
what they
lived.
do to Mandarin or something, you know. So it's real. Even still, it's really hard for me when I get to characters like Doctor Strange or Black Panther, who are like,
Guardians was a big one for you.
yeah, people who are like, who when I was a kid reading those stories, I felt like these are my like these are my favorites. Like Spider-Man's, I like Spider-Man.
I
but
love Spider-Man.
Everybody, right? Anybody not like Spider-Man?
Put your hand down.
No, I love
It doesn't
too.
matter. They can't see it.
Uh,
They can't see your hand.
But yeah, so like Black Panther was, I owned him really quick. I read like my first issue reading him was his first appearance. I was reading like old school Fantastic Four when he shows up, and I loved him right off the start. I was like, African superhero? Frick yeah. And then I just like I ate up everything else I could about him. And so
Fantastic Four number 52. Carry on.
it's I haven't anybody want to read it after this? You can. It's not like this
Stanley and
movie.
Jack Kirby.
But yeah, so I had a lot of expectations going in. I did not expect, oddly enough, because I tried to stay away from all the reviews and stuff, I didn't expect that there was going to be like that much emphasis on racism or on like black
I was totally expecting that going in. Like all the, even though like the snippets of reviews, they all talked about like those are headlines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This film has
I
something to
kinda-
say.
I'm kind of with Ian. I didn't expect it as much.
Yeah.
but it was. But
Handled with such grace.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was
Grace is the
delivered
word.
so well that it
It wasn't
didn't-
preachy by any means.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I appreciated, like, so I knew the headlines about like all black cast, black director, like all the stuff, and I was like, that's awesome, and I get that it's like that's a landmark in cinematic history, but I didn't think about the implications for it, and I also didn't think that it would be a theme in the movie. If anything, I thought it'd just be kind of like a cool undertone. I honestly didn't give a lot of thought to it, but I appreciated so much that they handled it. I appreciated that like the villain, yeah, that it wasn't preachy.
We can get into that more
Yes.
as we
Yeah.
dive a little
Also,
deeper.
it's super cool
Yeah.
that the cinematographer is a woman as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yo.
Yeah, so
cool.
expectations for me were admittedly high, and I it parted ways with what I thought of Black Panther in the comics, but I loved it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I expected another fantastic Marvel movie. I expected probably, based on the critical reaction to the film and just the excellence in marketing and the materials that were released beforehand, I expected like a top tier Marvel movie, like
Yeah,
at least top 10 for me.
You can tell the ones that they're like pushing really hard in the marketing, and the ones where they're like, maybe this won't do so well.
Yeah, what I don't think that's been the case for a while because Phase 3 has been knocking it out of the
Yeah,
park.
they've been hitting every one,
Yeah.
batting 1,000.
Right. Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm not crazy about that new trailer, but we can talk about that later. Yeah, so I just expected it to be just a fantastic Marvel movie. I was expecting a little bit more of a movie
And not
movie
an
excellence and not
intro.
just an awesome Marvel movie. Because I saw Creed and I love Ryan Coogler as a director. I haven't seen Dope or Fruitvale Station. I should probably get on that. But I loved Creed. So, and I love Black Panther for the comics. He was one of my favorite things about Civil War. His
Oh, yeah.
introduction
Civil
is incredible.
Yeah.
He owned
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
much.
And I love how that movie gives him a satisfying arc with such like minimal screen
yeah,
time.
such minimal screen
Yeah.
time, but you feel for his character
Yeah.
the entire time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think it's like you feel for all the characters.
Yeah.
Which is such a contrast to other movies where they have one main character, you learn about main character, and here are the sidekicks to main character that you can kind of feel for, but you don't really need to know anything about them except that they are sidekick and we have main character.
Yeah.
This movie, everyone felt like a real developed person with real goals.
Yeah, and I think that was introduced in Civil War, and I think the Russos did so good
Yeah, that movie
filming
is like
that,
a master
directing that, and that's
web
what. Yeah,
of-
and that's what like
of film.
gave them Infinity War because they recognized they could handle this many characters, and obviously with Infinity War they're going to handle
Right.
double
Oh,
that,
Oh man,
Yeah.
like
It's gonna be
just
great.
crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, Black Panther's probably like a top 20. Nah, probably like top probably top 50 Marvel character. He's not one of my main favorites, but I love him, and I love him and everything I've seen, and I was super excited for this movie.
Yeah. So now that we've kind of gotten that out of the way, and we've already brushed on this a little bit with each of us, but like we're gonna hit our like gut response.
Yeah.
Credits hit, and you were like, "Frick, that sucked." Or
What's your main thoughts about this movie in 2 to 3 tweets? What would you say?
Wow.
What's your tweetable?
I don't tweet.
Isaac.
Yeah, so credits rolled, and I was satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it. I liked that it was deeper. I liked the character development. I liked the world it opened up to us. I guess my general thoughts are that it was good. I think it's got some. It's not a perfect movie, which is I don't think there's no perfect. I don't think there's any perfect movie out there.
Baby
Dark
Driver.
Knight. Baby Driver.
Okay, there's
Baby
some.
Driver.
There's some perfect movies, yes.
Yeah. Shawshank
But,
Redemption. The Empire Strikes
Okay,
Back.
yeah, and I have my few. I'm just trying not to reveal them because I did make that statement. But
One perfect movie in your opinion.
Return of the King.
Ooh.
Ooh, good choice.
I'm
Even
with you,
with
Isaac.
8 endings.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's what
picked
makes
the
it
one you
perfect.
like.
That's
I
what
mean,
I
Joaquin
weep
rated.
every time.
It's,
8
it's
times.
7 endings
and-
because 7 is the number of perfection.
Yes. So general thoughts. I enjoyed it. I'd watch it again,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Like
for
it
sure
better
buy
the
the
second time.
Blu-ray. Can't wait to see kind of
10
some of the
out of 10
behind
will
the
buy Blu-ray.
scenes. Yeah.
Hashtag.
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Overall, I was really satisfied.
I'll go next because I'll piggyback off of what Isaac was saying. I know I just said I'm a huge Black Panther fan. I've got all this stuff.
He's got
And-
baggage.
And maybe that's part of why I felt this way, but I left the movie and I think the word is satisfied. Like,
Satisfied,
but it didn't give me that. So we'll talk about rankings later,
Yeah.
like we teased, but like,
But you weren't
You-
like pumped like this.
yeah,
is
you
so
can
awesome.
ask my wife. When I go into a Marvel film, a lot of times I'm on the floor of the theater because I cannot contain myself.
The rest
Like,
of us can also
Civil
attest to
War
this.
was
You don't need to
amazing.
ask his
just
wife.
to watching it.
We all can agree to this
They
statement.
Yes.
By
By
the
the
way-
way, by the
We've all
way,
seen it.
I got to see Civil War in the Marin County theater where Empire Strikes Back premiered,
That's
Oh my
awesome.
God.
and it was so cool.
Sweet.
That's so cool.
It's just this massive one-screen theater. It's so cool.
oh wow.
All I could think of would be like George Lucas walked these halls. George
Seriously,
Lucas
that's what I was
walked
thinking the
these
entire
halls.
time. I'm like, that
His
concession
spirit is
stand
here. Yes.
has not changed since he was
lightsaber
here.
feels
like,
it.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But
no.
yeah, so I felt satisfied. I thought it was I think I can safely say it's a great film. We'll get into like kind of our negative thoughts about it later.
Yeah.
And that'll kind of show up things I didn't like or things that I thought kind of brought things that I thought were missing from it, making me go like, yes, I love it. But I still can say, yes, I love it. Maybe not 3 yeses with all caps, but I thought it was great. I thought the acting across the board was solid. Martin
Fantastic
Freeman as an
performances.
American,
Yes.
go ahead, man.
Yeah.
Andy Serkis.
He did it better than
finally
Cumberbatch
being,
did.
Like, finally being
real person.
a real like New Zealander. Like, it took.
What is
How
this?
many films has he been in before he can finally just
Seriously.
like talk with his
There
own
was-
accent? Like,
there
I think
was
even
like
in the Prestige, he
one-
doesn't like talk to this. Like, he's an American.
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
Prestige, too.
Yeah.
There was like one moment where he's laughing, and I'm like, "That's Gollum." Gollum just came out.
Yes,
It
there
was
that
his-
moment.
He
Yes,
just
yes.
appeared for
I
a
think it was
second,
during
and
the
then he kind of
interrogation scene.
Yes.
yeah, and then he
Yes.
kind of
Yeah.
And it's cool because it's Bilbo and Gollum.
yeah,
Oh my
I
God.
know.
Yep.
It's
Oh my
so
gosh,
cool.
I never even thought of that.
Yep.
Oh my
It's
God.
I
good.
mean,
Now
I know
up
that's
in this
true now,
mess.
but I was like, I never caught that. You're right.
Yeah.
But that even proves how they were taking on different characters so well.
Yeah.
That's-
Because
they
I
weren't
didn't
Tom Cruising
immediately
it.
go,
That's
"Oh,
acting.
it's
That's
Bilbo,"
acting.
and
Yeah.
and like they.
That is what acting's all about. I've
Yeah.
heard of this thing.
Speaking as a professional.
Also, like Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, their rivalry and their
Mm-hmm.
performances, like owned that film for me.
100%.
But yeah, so those are my good feelings. Special effects, pretty, and like
Oh,
just like we were
gorgeous.
talking about the design.
It's a long tweet.
I guess.
He doesn't
my
tweet it,
My tweet was
folks.
interrupted by all the comments.
Rude.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think also, I mean, everyone's kind of saying the same thing, but I think honestly for me, one of my main thoughts afterward was like, yeah, this was a well acted film, and like in a way that like other Marvel movies necessarily aren't. I think it was like the characters were just so exceptional.
Yes.
Like they were so well written and just so, yeah, like multi-layered, multifaceted, just really, really great. I think the characters really made the movie, honestly.
Yeah.
And then
This movie had a supporting cast of just made up of fantastic actors
100%. Yeah.
that were all given their moment, and they all had their individual voices and their own individual characters. And that you can't say that about every Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Like a lot of like, there's always supporting cast in Marvel movies, but for me, like, there's not ones that like shine as much as like Black Panther does.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Warriors 3 in like Thor 1 and 2, and then compare them to like to Black Panther supporting cast. There's a reason why they get killed off with very little to no dialogue in Ragnarok, because they're no like Dora Milaje. They're no
or
Lupita
even
Nyong'o's
like
character.
grief from the characters in that film or the audience. We're like, oh well, there
Sweet.
they go.
Yeah.
Let's go
Like-
back to Sakaar, because that's way more fun.
Yeah.
Like I would say when I saw Forrest Whitaker's character, it reminded me of. Thank you. I was gonna bring that up. It reminded. Yeah.
Save the dream.
Thank you. Yes.
We needed to make that
That's
joke
amazing.
at least
Yes.
once.
Yes, there's gonna be
But
more
it
of that.
reminded me about you. I would say roughly screen time wise, it was about the same as his. In Rogue One, he's more talked about for the first half, but he's kind of about that size of character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yet I felt more attached to him in this film.
100%.
As a Saw Gerrera defender, I refute that statement. I love
hey,
Saw Gerrera.
I enjoyed him.
You also
in
have
Rogue
all
One.
the movies and TV shows and like and comics.
Yes, there's
back
also
to it.
like a lot in like Star Wars
Totally.
canon.
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
support That character.
Totally.
He's a really like important character.
No, I know, but that's why it was kind of sad because in Rogue One, I mean, if you go into Rogue
you
One,
see like the last day of his career.
exactly, and that I don't feel like they hinted as much at the depth of his character in that film compared to this one.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that like, sorry Cassie, but like
Zuri is Forrest Whitaker's character's name.
yeah.
That's Zuri.
So
The
like
priest.
you get this character. So from like a first standalone film for let's say a hero, because it's not quite an origin film. He becomes king. He officially becomes the Black Panther. But like we see him presented. So let's compare it to like we have Civil War, and then we have Spider-Man: Homecoming, or we have Civil War, which introduces both Black Panther and Spider-Man as characters in this universe, and then we have our separate movies like Spider-Man: Homecoming, and we have Black Panther, where it's like okay, we have these characters who are introduced in a different film, and now we're just gonna like launch them, and we're gonna put them in their settings with their characters. For me, Black Panther like
Slays Homecoming.
slays
Yes.
Homecoming,
Yeah.
and that's just
and
feeling
I like
like
Homecoming,
yeah,
but this movie's way better.
yeah, we bring the rest of the cast up next to this character, and we just believe all of those relationships.
Well, and you know what I thought was so cool is I think Homecoming had to rely a little bit on appearances by Tony Stark
Yep.
yes,
and who else appeared as in Homecoming?
Happy.
Yeah, Happy.
Jon Favreau.
Did any other heroes appear?
Pepper at the end.
So
And we get
so
references to a
even
lot.
Tony Stark, like the fact that he was in it several scenes. Black Panther, none of those guys. We didn't get any of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it was only like
Except for the end credit scene with Bucky.
that's true. But even
And
that,
his
that's just an end
beautiful-
And
credits
his
where-
beautiful-
beautiful man bun.
Yeah.
His locks were.
But even
just
that
gorgeous.
end credit
Luxurious.
scene, like
Luscious.
that wasn't the case in Homecoming. It was like, I mean, Tony Stark was in the credits or in the trailers.
Yeah.
We were going into that wanting to see,
Tony
you know,
Stark.
that scene of
With
them.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man
yeah.
swinging and Tony's flying right next to him.
Yeah,
Like,
that's literally the poster.
yeah. So
I would say my thoughts on this movie as it ended, I had two things. The first was the cinematography. Like, the opening credits scene was beautiful.
yeah, that was
Like,
so cool.
That opening story. It
Oh
was,
yeah, how we like the exposition for the world of
Yes.
Wakanda.
Yeah.
It was
Yes.
beautiful.
That was awesome.
The whole movie had these beautiful moments in it of just amazing cinematography that just were gorgeous scenes. And even the end credits, they bookended it with this really cool look and style. The movie had, I mean, you know, Kendrick Lamar did the music. The movie had style.
Yeah,
It had its own
And it's
feel.
consistent, too.
It's consistent. It has this vibe to it that was really cool. The other thing I really liked was we finally had a Marvel villain who was interesting and
Amen.
more than just a guy who wanted
Yes.
to take over the world and kill people.
I mean,
Yeah.
he
Although-
did
Even
wanna
though
take
that's what he
over
wanted
and
to
kill
do.
people.
But he had a reason for doing it besides being, I'm just a
Yes.
bad guy because
But he
I want to
also-
be
We're,
bad.
we're
And
looking
he
at
also
you,
had a
Malekith.
He also had a reason. Yeah, right.
Malekith is horrible.
He's a forgettable villain, honestly, for me, because
He's
I'm
so
like,
bad.
what?
Malahoot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But his reason almost, you want to sympathize with it. You almost, it
Yeah.
forces the audience to the middle line to go, I don't actually, scene to scene, I'm kind of leaning one way or the other.
Well,
The
I think-
best villains do that.
Yes.
The best
Because he's
villains
a
do
villain who and we see from the beginning setup we see
that. Which is a great twist, by the way.
he is a
I didn't
villain
see
who has
coming.
he's legitimately been wronged and we see
Mm-hmm.
all of that we see really everything this is all it all goes back to T'Chaka and the wrong choices that he makes.
And also, I think is for a true villain, you could see yourself being that villain.
Yeah.
Like, if I was in that
Yeah.
kid's shoes,
I would
Yeah.
totally get
if
it.
my father got killed by this guy, wouldn't I want revenge?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that could be a hero's journey almost.
And it
getting
was
revenge.
because that was Black Panther's arc in Civil War.
Yes, and
Which
so
is
it was
another
another-
cool thing.
another
It's
tie-in.
you-
Yeah,
This is a classic comic book villain where the villain is the opposite coin of the hero.
Yeah.
It's you
Yeah.
see this
The-
is what could have been.
Yeah.
This is what is. And it's cool because their journeys their heroes' journeys
They
literally mirror each other, but you get to see both sides of the coin.
And I think that's really emphasized in the imagery of at the end they're both wearing the Black Panther
Yeah.
suit
Mm.
and but
And it's even mirrored in their speech,
yeah.
how they talk as well.
Mhm.
and they just have two different views of how the world should be,
Mm-hmm.
and they just have to have this battle. Which view of the world is
Yeah.
the way it should be?
Simba
Yeah.
versus Scar.
I think it also helps how you
No,
got the
that's not what that
Not at all.
movie is
No, I do
about.
not agree with that statement.
I'm trying to remember the character's name. Sorry guys, we just came out of this movie and so forgive us if we're not straight up Wakabi. So the guy who turns and join that's what also I think lends credibility to the villain.
Who's Wakabi?
He's the
Uh,
guy.
David Kaluuya is the
He's
actor.
the one whose parents died. What?
Get Out.
Oh
Get
yeah,
out,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um,
The Rhino dude.
yeah,
Yeah,
the-
Rhino
his,
dude.
Yeah,
parent-
Rhino
his
dude.
His parents were
killed.
killed, and that's why he wanted. He
Yeah,
also
by Claw.
wanted vengeance. So
Yeah.
that that was the overall theme.
And he
almost.
was, when Claw was presented dead by Killmonger, he was convinced, okay, you gave me what I want.
Yeah.
You can do
we have a
things.
similarity in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And there's also the whole movie. There's this tension that we see within T'Challa, and that's represented by different characters in different ways. Of Wakanda is this secret world, and it has all these resources. And what are we doing to help the rest of the world? There's this whole the whole movie they're developing this of what is the right thing to do, and so many different voices are speaking into that, and it's really a legitimate issue that could be taking place
Yeah.
in our
mean,
world
That,
right
it
now.
It
affects.
is
It's a
taking
question for
place.
each one of us because we
Yeah.
all have resources, we all have time, and what are we doing to share
Well,
that and make our world a better place?
I think they're thinking about even bigger level. What is politically
America's
what is
job.
what is America's job? Because we used to be isolationists. We used to be that, but we're not that much
that's
anymore.
why we didn't jump into World War II.
Yes,
at the
the
beginning.
exact
We had to
reason.
be attacked first.
Yes.
And I love at the beginning you have his love interest.
Yes.
She's actually promoting
Lupita
this. She's
freaking
saying
Nyong'o.
yeah, oh, queen.
But you can identify why they're that way. Why they
Yeah. I
don't
like
want
that
to
Wookiee.
get involved.
Yeah.
Because they want to keep their people safe. He's I am not the king of everyone.
Yeah.
I'm the
Yeah.
king of my people, and I can't be bringing these people in. And the Rhino dude says, if you bring them in, they bring
Rhino
their
dude.
problems.
Wakabi.
Christened.
Yes.
Yeah.
They bring in their problems, and so that's kind of in today's world, that's kind of the mindset.
Which
refugees.
we don't want zero
Which
problems
I thought
with
was
the-
so interesting
Yeah.
because normally, obviously this is fictional, but it speaks to a lot of cultural things happening right now. But normally, you hear that spoken from a white person, and
Yes.
so
Yeah.
for the
Yes.
line to be given to that character in the film was
Yes.
almost so it made me really think about it
Mhm.
because of the context of Wakanda. It was well, that was really an interesting twist and obviously it's not just to be a jab at culture, but it definitely was a piece of the story, but also a cultural relevant topic.
Yeah, I'll say as a blanket statement, that's one of the things that I appreciated about all these themes put into perspective, because especially if you think about, so let's take this out of an American context. Think about like Rwanda. Racism and nationalism and all these things, it's not just about skin color, right? Like hate goes beyond that into like our hearts, because in Rwanda, it's blacks on blacks, it's Africans against Africans, it's Hutu and Tutsi, and it's not like whites and blacks. So when you like give this story where everybody is African or like everybody's black, but there's still going to be a villain, you know, like, and it's not just like
A white
this
dude?
white guy.
Yeah,
totally.
Like, it's like, that's like clearly obvious. The white guy is the one putting down the blacks, and like, so he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, which we would probably all get behind, if not feeling comfortable about. But like, yeah, I appreciate that in this film. Like, it puts more focus on the issues.
Yeah.
And like, that's what I think you're saying, Kevin, is like everybody has like, and like you're saying, Cassie, there's all these sides to it, like the lover's side, the
mothers.
the rhino guy,
Rhino guy.
his side, like T'Challa, we see from his perspective, we almost feel like his throne, you know, he's like, now I'm a king and I am the one who has to make a decision, but like I have to weigh all of these different things. And like you're saying, Logan, we get the other side of the coin where Killmonger's been like, I've made a decision. This is what I think it's gonna like. This is what I think the solution is. But we as the audience were like, well, we know that's not it. But what is? You know.
Mm-hmm.
To jump in real quick, there's one thing I was interested in. When Claw died, like really early in this movie,
Yes.
like
So
halfway.
It was that. It was halfway.
It
Yeah,
was
it was
halfway,
like-
But it was
I was
surprising.
expecting him to be more
Yeah.
of a
Really?
villain.
Okay.
Yeah, that was what confused. I was like,
He's so much more interesting in this than Age of Ultron as well.
yes, but it was just so like it genuinely surprised me. I was like, wow. I was expecting a way more. Like I was expecting him to be there till the end, as you know, the
Kind of
fluky,
like
who
back and forth.
yeah, he'd be the minor boss, and then you do the end boss battle almost. But yeah, he got taken out really.
I have some
early.
thoughts about that, and I'll get into them when we
I do
on
too.
our kind of next section. But
This movie didn't feel, in many ways, like a Marvel movie to me.
It transcended that.
It it
Yes.
was.
Which is very rare.
Yeah, it was its own. It defied so many like cliches or norms, and it really
except a
just,
Stan Lee cameo.
Except for that, you
Yeah.
can't defy the Stan Lee cameo. That's what the Marvel movies are about.
No.
When
That's
he's
why I
dead.
buy my ticket.
And this was one of the
No,
best ones.
then we'll
by
just
the way.
CGI him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've
We
probably
can do
filmed
that now.
hundreds of stock
Yeah.
Stan Lee cameos
They
just
can just
for
go
when
in
he
anywhere.
passes. They have them
Oh
set.
my gosh, yes.
100
And you know he's put his
years
stamp on
worth.
that. He's like, "Oh, sure."
Why is he Irish?
That's
That sounded Irish.
all right. I'm sorry, Stan. We share a birthday.
Cool story, bro.
Yeah. Anyways, you were saying.
Oh yeah, just that. Like to me, coming out of it and looking back on it, it didn't feel like other Marvel movies. Like it definitely felt like its own thing. Like they didn't set out to make a Marvel movie. They set out to make like a good film, and they think that they accomplished.
Well, I
that.
think that's how also Guardians of the Galaxy was also perceived at the
Mhm.
time. That was not a
Yeah.
Marvel movie. That was something different, which is what
An
again,
action adventure. Rom.
yes, which led to its
Which
success.
all these movies are, but that movie does it better than most.
Yes,
and
yeah.
more so.
yes.
It's more
There's
actiony
lots of
and more
Guardians
rompy.
One love in the house.
Oh, so much. Except not. We can talk about that when we
Whoa.
get to
Yeah.
our
Whoa.
ranking.
No, Ian loves the movie. There's just he is qualms.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
So let's kind of we've been chatting about a lot. We've been throwing a lot on the table, and this will all come up. Maybe we can have just more of a broad, open discussion at the very end. But so we'll do. We'll try to keep away from interjecting on each other. But our 3 favorite moments, and then our 3 least favorite moments. Do you want to do those separately, or at the same
Yeah, let's
time
go
for
through
each
3
person?
favorite and then talk about.
Also, did you get to talk about your like initial
Oh, I don't
feelings?
think I did.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll load it. All right, let's move on.
Tweetable.
Very tweetable.
I learned it. So 3 favorite moments. If you need a minute to think, I think I've got some, or I know Logan's got his up. So why don't we start with you, Lo, and we'll go from there.
3
So
favorite moments. What's her name? What's the head of the Dora Milaje?
Ugh.
Okoye?
Her
Okoye.
Majesty the
Okoye.
Queen.
her
Okoye?
when she whips out the spear for the first time in South Korea, that action scene blew me away.
Yes.
That was like Darth Maul level, like levels of BA. It was
so
awesome.
good.
I love that was one of my favorite moments. Another one of my favorite moments is probably less of a moment and more of just a general theme. So when T'Challa first like enters the ancestral plane, and he's like talking about how T'Chaka was like a perfect dad.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I was like, no one's perfect. That to me didn't feel real to me in that moment, especially coming out of like The Last Jedi, which that movie is all about failure.
Yeah.
And the failure of ancestors and the failure of the individual and how we react to that. So I was like, man, T'Chaka's like the perfect dad. Like that's not interesting. That's boring. But to make the whole like origin of the villain to be
About his
imperfection and failures, that to me was awesome because it was real. It's human. We all fail, and we're gonna fail our kids. We're gonna fail ourselves. But it's like the main message of The Last Jedi is how we react to that is what defines our legacy.
Mm.
So that's like a continuing thing over from Last Jedi that I saw in this, and then I brought into that. That was one of my favorite moments. And let's see, if I was to pick another favorite moment, it was when Michael B. Jordan and his character Killmonger goes crazy at the when he rescues Claw, and then he just shoots his girlfriend.
Oh man,
and
that
then
was
shoots Claw.
That was crazy.
I like.
That was awesome.
I was like, what?
I like how we
that
didn't
was
learn he
great.
was CIA until after that.
Yeah, because you
Like-
weren't expecting that. You're like, oh, he's just some punk kid.
Yeah.
And then then he does that.
I mean, we know he's Killmonger, but like,
Right. I didn't realize till that
yes.
scene
Yeah.
that he was working for Killmonger. I thought like they were just like buddy working together.
yeah.
But when he shot like who I thought was going to be like a main character and mean something to him in his girlfriend, that like blew me away.
Well, not only that, but Claw.
Yeah, and Claw. That gave me instant buy-in to his character.
I'll say this, like, we're all familiar with like the movie trope of big bad guy kills smaller bad guy, like Thanos,
Last Jedi.
or any where it's like where like the big boss
got
is
snoped.
like you're worthless to me, like you mean we're all familiar with that. Every Bond villain ever like shoots his right hand man, like you're done.
Yeah.
But what I like. This was like so different from that. Like same scenario, same setup, but like I was like, oh crap! Like he just did that.
It instantly gave the villain teeth.
Yes.
Yeah.
In a way that wasn't forced, and in a way that it like gave you so much more buy-in to Killmonger's character, and instantly in that moment set himself above pretty much all of Marvel villains except for maybe the top tier.
Yeah.
And what I liked about that too is he wasn't just doing it to get vibranium or money. He was doing it to literally get Claw's body to then like present.
Right.
So it was like
He had an in.
yeah.
And it was also like a product of his like ghost training because he was one of the guys that went in during a time of transition that Everett Ross was saying and would help destabilize countries and governments.
You can tell
So
he's
he
done
waited
his
for
research.
that moment,
Yeah.
and then he pulled the trigger on Claw, which gave me like so much more respect for him as a character because he has patience, and I always appreciate a villain with patience.
Yeah.
And who has a plan and will train and give everything he has to his plan to achieve his end goal.
So who else has got 3 favorite moments?
I've got
Unless you guys want to weigh in on these 3 favorite moments.
I got 3.
Okay.
Favorite was the fight scene in the like club whatever place in South Korea. There was this tracking shot that goes from
Oh
I don't know
yeah.
if you guys noticed,
I
but
noticed that.
most of that scene was one take,
Mhm.
and there was this tracking shot that went from down below the first story up to what's her name? I forget her name, but the head
Okoye.
Koye guard lady.
Dora Milaje.
Head Dormelage, yes, thank you. So the shot like moves up to her. She's taking out all these guys, and then it comes back down.
when she jumps down.
When
and
she jumps
stabs
down,
someone. yeah,
was
that
so
was
sick.
that
goes
was very
to
cool.
T'Challa, and in the background you see like Ross firing his gun at somebody. Like there was so many and those shots are so technical. Like, and to do it 2 stories with I don't even know what kind of rigging they would
Yeah.
have used, but that was impressive. So that was my favorite moment because it was
Yeah.
like, and I saw part of that I saw in a trailer, just that part where it moves up, and I was like, ooh, I haven't seen
Yeah.
a shot like that.
I can
in
imagine
a
the
long
rigging.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love there's like a moment where you can see like Claw is like he's shooting guys and running away in the background.
Yeah.
But he's just there.
Yeah.
And the camera is focused on T'Challa until we see T'Challa turn and look at him, and then it like focuses on Claw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah, very well done.
That was
with
such cool
one.
about
The
Yeah.
whole
Something so
South
cool about
Korea
those.
sequence was one of my favorite parts
Yeah.
of the movie. It was great to see like him in a working scenario with like two of the best characters in the movie with Nakia. Is that Lupita Nyong'o's character's name? Is that how you pronounce that? We're gonna butcher all these names
Yeah.
tonight. Just forewarning, we've only seen the movie once, and they're all kind of
actors and characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of the
So-
above.
Then my second favorite moment was that kind of like gave me the instant like I'm mesmerized by the scene, like every word I'm taking in, was when Claw gets captured and Ross is interrogating him, and Ross doesn't know what Wakanda truly is, and Claw totally does, and he's just
So
spilling the beans. He's just
Yeah.
like reading their mail, and then it cuts to T'Challa and Nakia. Okay, yeah. Again, sorry on the names, but cuts to them outside, and they're both looking at each other like, oh crap! Like he's just, and Ross almost doesn't believe it, but he has to go verify. I also love too what led into that scene when T'Challa puts his hand on Ross's shoulder, and there was a sound effect
Yeah.
that almost it made you, at least for me, it made me notice what's on his shoulder. Something's on his shoulder. And it was just like a subconscious thing.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's
You
this.
didn't notice that?
It's a deeper.
just
It's a
get that till
deeper
just now.
sound effect when
Yeah.
he does
Yeah.
this. There's like a some kind of noise, and it's literally it's so subtle. But then when it cuts to inside the interrogating room and you see the little thing on his shoulder, it's like it was giving
Yeah.
us a clue.
Which is so like Mission Impossible James Bond.
Totally,
The whole
love
South
that.
Korea sequence in like the
Oh,
club.
so
So
James.
James
good.
No,
Bond.
it
Yeah.
started
That's
with him in a gadget room getting his gadgets
Oh, yeah.
handed to him,
By the
and
Q.
her being like,
Shuri.
here's
Yeah.
what this gadget does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shuri, T'Challa's sister, is like straight like head of the Q branch
Yeah,
of
Q br-
Wakanda.
Q
It's so
branch.
Q branch. In
Which
like
was
the
cool.
best way. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I love
it
that.
reminded me of like films in James Bond, which I love.
You know what? I'm removing my my initial vote for his name is escaping me right now. But the guy I always want to play James Bond.
Idris Elba.
Michael
Idris
Fassbender.
Elba, yeah.
Yeah.
Idris Elba's out. Chadwick Boseman's in. Boom.
Ooh, that'd be
James
sick.
That'd
Bond.
be cool.
Wow.
Michael B. Jordan.
All right, my third favorite moment was when Claw died. That was that whole
That was
scene.
great.
Yeah.
That was
It
one
was-
of mine.
that was
Yeah.
so
I
sick.
like when I would categorize Marvel films as geared towards teenagers, families. They're marketed in that way.
Yeah, you can
Kids.
go. You can go
Broad-
to the movie together.
Kids,
Yeah.
broad spectrum
Nerds.
audience, and nerds. But I like when
No.
they do things that you kind of normally only see in more R-rated adult movies, where they'll take a character you think you're gonna get a lot of and you think is gonna be a bigger deal, and they just kill him off right there unexpectedly. I
Snoke.
loved it. It reminded me of the scene in 10 Cloverfield Lane when I don't remember any of those guys'
Oh,
names, but the
yeah.
big guy, John
Yeah.
Goodman's character, just shoots the spoilers.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers
Wow,
for
yeah.
Cloverfield Lane.
This is a
Sorry,
big spoiler for
forgot
movie.
that.
Go see that movie.
But
It's
literally,
awesome.
when he's just holding the gun and then just shoots him right there, it was
was
like
Eddie.
so shocking.
that was
Yeah.
one of my favorite theater moments.
yes,
in a while when that-
so
when that
shocking, and it didn't have that much shock to it, but it still had whoa, like you said, Ian,
Yeah.
like whoa. Killmonger's just going there, like he just took him out, like there they go, and it's done. And I appreciate when movies kind of like to go that far.
Yeah.
So.
I'll say my simple thought to that was like, as a Black Panther fan, Claw's his arch nemesis, right? We see, so Killmonger's there, the white ape guy that you see, like, they actually get help from, but he's one of, like, Black Panther's kind of, like, arch nemesis. He's his, like, Black Manta Ray kind of a thing. But
Black Manta Ray?
Black
Manta?
Mantas.
Okay.
Black Manta.
That's
Black Manta.
Baku.
I don't care
is
about
the white
DC.
gorilla guy.
I'm just
I
gonna
love
cover
Black
this
Manta.
Anyways,
Let's keep going.
but like another like racial villain. Anyways, but just like so for me, Claw was like I was like so excited to see this like arch nemesis in the film and like, I think Andy Serkis is playing him great, and then he dies
And
like
he's gone.
Yeah, like a third of the way in, and I was like, frick, like.
Yeah.
But you know what? I felt way better. So like Iron Man 3 does something similar with Mandarin, but I loved this moment. And as soon as my initial thought was, oh frick. My next immediate thought, I wrote it down just a second. So my next immediate thought was like, this movie is about the old literally dying away and the new coming into power.
Yeah.
Yes.
It starts with T'Challa's dad dying and him coming in, and this whole like thing about Wakanda and tradition, and there's like this balance to it, but like the themes about the whole movie is like, it's kind of similar to what we've seen in The Last Jedi, which just came out, but like this whole idea of like your old perceptions and your old ideas about where this is going and what this is going to be like
This is not going to turn out the way,
you think.
Yeah.
Let
And
the
like the
past
world
die,
is
kill
new.
it if you have to.
Yeah.
And so it was like we're getting like this old villain is like from a different era. We hear about his crimes and those things from a different era, and like they reared his head as like, this guy who did so much bad things to us, we got to get him. And then like they're not even the ones who get him. You know, like there's a new villain in town. You know, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But Kevin, I think you're up.
Yeah, so one of my favorites was when Killmonger he became king, and then you do the scene where he goes to the other plane and he sees his dad, and that was so powerful. And then
I was gonna say
he
that for one of mine.
transforms back into a kid again, and that was just so powerful.
Yeah.
And
That was a great scene.
Yeah.
and you don't see that with villains again. Like he was showing like his vulnerability, like, and there was tears coming down his face, and he was talking to his dad, and it was such a beautiful, powerful moment where you got to see, what was driving him, like why he was doing what he was doing, like why, but this shows you like his emotions behind it, the reasons why he does everything he does, and it was just such a powerful scene for me.
It's such a contrast to T'Challa's like spirit scene.
Yes.
And like what you're saying, like the Logan,
perfect
the other
dad.
side of the coins.
Yeah, yeah.
And like I love that, like they could have just not had that.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't have to see him get in the powers, and like we could have just assumed all that happened, but they put that in there like for all the reasons you're saying.
And that's what made it not a Marvel movie. That was one of the things that made this not a Marvel movie, that they showed that scene, that they made you think that maybe this villain isn't such a bad guy. Like, he's still a bad guy, but
He's doing bad things.
he's doing bad
But
He
things.
you
immediately
sympathize
wakes
in a way
up
you don't do
and
with
burns
other
all the
villains
flowers.
other than like Loki.
Yes, yeah, Loki's like the only other good villain they have that you actually identify with at times.
we'll talk about it.
Yes,
That
yes,
you
yes.
identify with.
Yes. My next one
Shout
would
out
be
to Banzimo.
both-
Kevin identifies with Loki.
I mean, what can I say? Evil
God,
trickster gods.
God of mischief.
Both of the challenge
God of
fights, especially when he's fighting Killmonger, and he loses his challenge for the.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't technically lose, but he kind of loses. So
Yeah.
I mean, he comes back.
He should
But
have been dead.
again in that scene, and you have like the sunset in the background. Like that is
Gold.
it's kind of the only thing is about it. It's like during the first challenge scene when he's fighting the other guy, the white giant dude, the white ape.
M'Baka.
Umbaka.
Mhm.
Yeah,
yeah.
He's gonna
M'Baku.
lose. Like Umbaka's gonna lose. He's gonna lose. You're like, no, they're not gonna have him. Lose this early. Like
Yeah.
he's got to be the
The
hero.
stakes aren't there.
You're
and you
this
know.
is
Yeah.
the beginning of the film.
Yeah, he's not
and
gonna
he's-
lose.
Yeah, like
And during the second one, you kind of already get the feeling of where the movie's going. So you're like, oh, I think Black Panther is gonna lose this time. You kind of still know it's gonna happen.
It's the Rocky thing.
Yeah, and then he's gonna have this amazing comeback. But it still didn't distract from the moment
Yeah.
of that fight and the brutality of the way they're going at each other. And then with his mother watching and his sister and the emotions from them as well, like that was just really powerful.
Yeah.
Especially with the sunset. I just love the scene where they're just the low camera angle and they're just looking
Such
up
a cool
the silhouettes.
setting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the setting was incredible.
That's
whole
like-
it felt we'll get this as one of my negatives though. I really during that whole waterfall scene, I really felt the green screen vibes.
I felt that too the first time.
That's-
I
It's a
didn't
little
feel it so
distracting.
much the
I'm
second
on that
time.
boat too. That's kind of one of my main negatives.
But
Yeah,
I
we'll get
think
there.
I think they like wanted that because that waterfall
So
like
pretty.
arena, that's straight out of the comics, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Like-
if this was a Star Wars movie, we would have built that waterfall and then augmented it with
we?
CGI. Well, yes.
Hashtag Theed.
No, I'm talking about like a new Disney era Star Wars film.
True.
Yeah. We
But-
built Luke's cave.
I think they almost wanted it to look over the top
Yeah.
in a way. Like
It's this
It
paradise.
is, but
It
it's
is paradise.
distracting. a little
Yes,
bit.
I personally was not distracted by
Okay.
it. I thought it was beautiful. I saw, you see the flaws, but that's movies.
I think I was.
No, I think they
Yeah.
did
They
build
both
it. I
had
think
their
just
shirts
the
off,
backdrop
so-
Parts of it
is
is
green
I was
screen.
mainly
Yeah.
focusing on
There were
that.
still, like
The
There
two
were-
shirtless men.
There were a
very
couple of
deliberately
shots
green
Duking
screen.
it
that
out.
looked like they weren't standing in water anymore.
Ah.
Really lightly, like quick action shots where
Yeah.
it was like, did that just change to like a motion capture set and then they augmented it and like
Yeah.
laid it over?
We'll fix it in post.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Did we fix
So you,
that in
do you have a
post?
third one or
Yes,
Yeah.
it was again, where you guys already said when Claw dies. Just the fact that this was not the villain we expected him to be,
Mhm.
which was awesome.
I think. Oh my gosh. I'm just gonna say, probably like my favorite acting moments. I'm just gonna stick to that.
To preface this, Cassie is an actor, so
And I
that's
was really hugely impressed by the acting. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna. Most of my favorite moments were acting moments. So I'm gonna stick to that. I think one of them was this moment in the last fight right after Killmonger gets stabbed. Spoilers. And he's talking about. He turns to T'Challa and he starts talking about his dad.
Huh.
And he's just like, my dad used to say he would take me to Wakanda and show me how beautiful it was. And there's this moment where he looks like a little boy,
Yeah.
and I just thought, man, like, what a character moment for him, for Killmonger, like,
Yeah.
and you just see it all.
He says he believes in like can you imagine
A
a kid
kid
believing in fairy
believing
tales?
in fairy tales.
That's what Wakanda is.
Yeah, but just that moment, I just saw it. I saw it all, and it just took me right there.
yeah. And another really poignant, like interesting thing about that scene is the line that Kilgrave, like not Kilgrave, that's Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
Killmonger.
Great character though.
Yeah, great character, David Tennant. But
Wonderful man.
Killmonger like talks about like I would rather die like being thrown off the boat. Like
Yeah.
that was the
That
the whole
new
parallel.
death was better.
The
than
whole parallel
bondage.
to like coming over from Africa to be a slave in America. Like
Yeah,
that was
that
that was an incredible line
that
that I
line-
did not expect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That was
line
an incredible,
was
like,
pretty
parallel.
crazy.
When he said that about his, I will say though, it took me out of the film for a brief second. I like,
But I think that's okay.
yeah. Well, just because like, not because it was so pointed, but because when he said like my ancestors, and I was like, we know who your ancestors were. They're all Wakandan.
Yeah,
And
that
I
was
like,
the only thing
not
I
his
had. I
mom,
was like,
not his mom.
oh, that's
Oh,
true.
that's true. That
Okay,
is
yeah.
true. There
Yeah.
you go. There's the cat. Because at first I was like, what? All of your ancestors were living fine in Wakanda.
Yeah.
Like,
And he also calls them
What
colonizers.
kind of privilege?
doesn't
yeah,
he? He
that-
calls
Yeah.
I
them-
like
Privilege.
I like
Yeah,
that term that
yeah.
came up multiple times.
Yeah,
and
that-
it was like it wasn't just him; it was like all of Wakandans
Yeah.
called them. Like I can't remember where it was.
Shuri.
Martin Freeman comes in, yeah, and she just like flippantly calls
And
him
he's
a
just-
colonizer.
Yeah.
And he's
It's
just
like,
like-
wow.
Yeah, the first time they say that, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
oh,
We're going there.
I
Yeah.
like it.
Going off of that, I think really just any moment, any single. I'm sorry, Kevin. I don't want to smack you. Any single moment in this film that had Shuri in it, I was just like, was my favorite moment.
She
and I
was
know
such a cool
they were
character.
just.
She's a
Can I
baller.
just say my favorite moment was just any time a woman did anything ever in this movie,
Which was a lot of
because
times.
That was a lot of times. So I probably.
Hashtag Dora
did.
Melange.
But
Hashtag woman.
the women were just so great in this movie, like just so great. But like, I'm just gonna say, the scene where what is it, the Q something from Bond films or
His sister.
the Q, yeah,
That's
where
Shuri.
Q is the name of the agent who
Yeah.
gives
Yeah.
Bond. his
so the
stuff.
whole like Q scene where like Shuri is giving him the rundown on all of his new tech. I just thought it was great because you just get to watch all of this camaraderie, like this sibling camaraderie that was just done just so perfectly, and like the whole
I
moment,
believed in their relationship.
the whole
Yeah.
thing where she's just like
was
where he like
entertaining to
hits it
watch.
and she's just like, well, you come in and you knock things around my lab, and then she's like, hit it again. He's like, why are you filming? She's like, for science. It was just, I just thought, I thought that Shuri was just, I just know that they're
The
just,
what are those joke was one of my favorite. Like,
what are
comedic moments.
those?
Yeah, that was
Oh, that was
Yeah.
awesome.
I just thought it was just such a great moment where you just get to see these siblings be siblings, and I just know they're just gonna kill her, and I'm just gonna hate it anyway.
But they did. And she's
But
coming
they
back for
didn't
Infinity
yet.
War.
Yeah. And I like how he brought her in at the end.
Yeah.
Like, and he was like, and he says like, this is where our father killed
Yeah.
our uncle. And I like, that was actually for me the strongest moment I felt like their siblings.
Yeah,
and it was
great.
him like almost like preparing her like for like he's like, you need to have this mindset of like what the throne is and what it means, even though you're not the king.
Yeah.
Like,
So yeah, definitely any moment with Shuri, especially that one. And then there was a part where Killmonger comes after he's like been pantherfied. He's gone to the
Is that a verb? Yeah.
he's gone to meet with his
gone to the
dad,
panther
and he's
side.
come back. He's burned all the flowers. Those are expensive, but he comes back and he walks back into the throne room,
he's
and the
burned
music,
all the flowers.
the music in this whole movie was so good. But like the song like started up at the beginning of the scene, and the camera was upside down.
That was
that was
And
sick.
now-
That was so cool.
Killmonger like walked in.
Yeah.
The
That was a
Yeah.
great shot.
Probably my favorite shot in the whole
So
Yeah, that was
and
a good
it was
shot.
like the
music
world
is-
is literally
I
upside
loved,
down.
I loved how
It was so cool.
any big scene with Killmonger had, because like there's so much like
Such a
great like
swag.
African music,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
anytime Killmonger had like a major thing, like there was like it was hip hop like rap music, and that was so great to like see that, and like
The
it's
Oakland side of that character,
Yeah.
the urban
Yes,
side of that
yeah.
edge that character had was
streets.
awesome.
Yeah.
and was such a like a
And the
cool
attitude.
like balance.
I
Hey,
love I
Antoine.
loved his voice, just
Ugh.
the like macho he had.
I thought it was like the moment when
cocky
he
attitude.
comes in to like confront like the council, and he starts telling them who he is. It was he was almost rapping, like for
Yeah.
real. It was so great. But anyways, so the scene where he walks in and the camera is upside down and it slowly turns
Yeah.
right side up, and I was just like, because
awesome.
like the kingdom is literally turning upside down as he's
Oh,
taking the
true.
throne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just
Yeah.
so cool and unexpected and well done, and I just loved it. That was great.
That's
Is that
awesome.
3? That's
Yeah.
3.
Do you have more?
I have many more, but I'll stop now.
I mean, yeah, I like I thought Shuri is like, she's so relatable for every high school kid who's going to see this
Well,
movie.
it's
Yeah.
their
Like,
in. It's their
yeah.
in.
Exactly.
yeah.
I loved like when he first gets into Wakanda, and you see like everybody's wearing like these like regal, like we don't know what they look like, but obviously like African like traditional garb, and she's wearing like an outfit that I see on the streets every day, like, but still kind of like techno and still kind of like Wakandan in future,
Yeah.
but just like totally like you can tell she's this hip, edgy kid.
Yeah.
she's in on all the tech,
But it
even
had a
like,
Nike vibe to it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, even the jacket she wears at the end in the second post credit
yeah.
scene, total Nike vibe, but
With
like
our boy
urban.
Bucky.
yeah.
Huh?
Was anyone shipping?
I ship
like,
it. Oh my
was
gosh.
shipping Shuri and Bucky. at
So
the
on
end?
board.
Oh yes, that
Not
was
really.
heavily
I
implied.
was-
Wait,
I
wait,
was
we
No,
we got
not
we
at
got
all.
a we got a
Yeah,
whole
we'll talk about that.
we have a
Chucky.
whole segment for that.
Ooh, we already have a couple names.
Chucky.
What about like the
Everybody,
Love it.
the
hashtag-
handshake between her and her brother?
Oh,
that
no.
was so cool.
I told Cassie
Yeah.
going in, I was like, "Do you know what I'm most excited for in this film? For that like sibling secret handshake."
Yeah,
Just
and it
like,
was cool.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was.
It wasn't cheesy at all.
No, it
But
was.
it
It
It was
actually-
not
felt.
youth camp.
It
the
felt
more I think
natural.
about it, I actually think that handshake wasn't so secret because I've been with Africans
It's
quite
only
a bit,
like 3
and
steps.
they all basically like do that slide and like grab and pound it. And then they just did like the like royal symbol that that like everybody does, and I was
Yeah,
like,
it felt
oh
very
wait,
pop culture.
it felt pretty pop culture,
But-
but maybe I like to think it was their secret handshake. I dream.
Well, it's
It
their
was fun.
thing.
I love the
Yes.
contemporary
Yeah, it was
edge
fun.
that Shuri had.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
awesome.
yeah, and like the costume design in all of this was so.
Oh, it was
let's just talk
ridiculously
about that.
fantastic.
But yeah, because you see with like Shuri, like we see even just from what she wears, like she is hip, she's aware, but she also is head of like all the science in Wakanda. So
Which
Yeah.
was cool to see a woman have that role.
and
What you were talking about.
I think not just that, but that
Hashtag.
it's that she's so young
Yes.
because that's what that guy, like the ape guy, that's what he digs into. Is he was like,
M'Baku.
you have a child like in charge of all of your like tech and research. But I think that's why she's cool and why she's relatable to high schoolers is because she's like this young person. But that's the experience our high schoolers have right now is like they know everything about technology. And all of their parents and like grandparents know nothing compared to what they
well,
know.
not nothing.
And like
but,
people, the older generation, like T'Challa, is like, why do we need to change? It's already perfect.
Yeah.
But she's the
it
innovator.
can always be better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, fun fact about the we were talking a little bit about the costume design of the film. Also done by a woman, which is awesome. Her name's Ruth E. Carter. She's done films like Roots
Selma.
and Selma,
Nice.
which is a fantastic movie. Yeah, she at least needs an Oscar nomination for this movie
Yeah.
because it's ridiculously good.
Are we
Ooh, you
thinking
think the
this-
Academy can wait that long?
Yeah.
It is February.
Yeah.
Also, that moment when Killmonger like takes off his battle vest like before
I
their
love that.
fight, like, and
Yeah.
he's
You see all of his like his
No,
battle.
he takes off
like,
his
battle
vest
scars.
and then he takes off his shirt.
yeah.
I remember it.
Yeah, which I don't know if that was like a
Not
a
complaining.
CIA Navy SEALs thing to like cut himself for the.
No,
I
the
think
kill?
that's a
it was-
personal
It was
thing.
a,
That was
no,
personal.
it was a Wakandan thing.
Was it?
Yeah.
Because if you remember,
all the other characters having
All the
them?
other warriors, have
Okay.
that.
Yeah, I think it was
His-
is
the tribe that
is
he's from.
Wakabi the dude on the rhino.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
mean
He
Rhino
had the
dude?
same scars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of
It
the
was
people
more
from
like a
his
traditional-
tribe.
And
did.
they talked about war dogs, and that's actually what like his father was. So I think it's like the same thing.
And
Like,
that was Wakabi's like tribe in this movie was like the warrior tribe,
yeah.
Got it.
and
Okay.
he was like the warmongering one of that side along with Killmonger.
I've got my 3 favorite moments. Also, do you think I'm just now looking at this picture? Is that his armor is giving me a little bit of Mandalorian vibes? Is that just me? Like,
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Oh,
it's like the
Killmonger?
middle chest
Killmonger.
piece.
I thought
yeah,
that too,
The
yeah.
little chest
Yeah.
piece. Yeah. Okay, going back to
Crossover
three
confirmed.
favorite moments. Yeah, crossover confirmed.
It is Disney.
Disney runs all our
Uh,
entertainment.
So, my maybe top favorite moment, because like current Black Panther comics are sort of like vibing on this, is the moment when Kevin, one of yours was the defeat, like the challenge scene between Killmonger and T'Challa, and like from like kind of, especially if you like are familiar with kind of stories and how they work, you're expecting him to kind of get defeated at this moment and probably come back in the end, for like that Rocky like
Every sports
revival.
movie ever.
Yeah, but like
Every movie
so
ever.
yeah,
Yeah, true.
So even though I knew he was gonna go down, I was like, I just felt like there's a smaller crowd, but you can feel like the intensity, and you can just feel like everybody there's on the edge of their seat, and I was on the edge of my seat, and like
The movie theater got quiet.
yeah,
after
it
that
got
showdown.
so quiet, and like
Everyone
the music
was in that moment.
the music when he got taken down, like I felt like them weeping over the loss of a king. I said that I was like, just the feelings of defeat. I felt defeated. The theater felt defeated. All of the people like there felt defeated. They're just like think of like this person who you believe so much in, and it's like, well, he is dead. So, frick. Like, what do we do?
We
Well,
go to
and
the
it's-
Gungans. That's what we do.
Oh,
We go to the Gungans for help.
Oh, P.S. favorite moment when M'Baku says,
Oh, the
we're
vegetarians.
just kidding.
Yeah, that
we're
was funny.
vegetarians.
That was great.
hysterical.
Yeah,
That's
that
classic
was-
Marvel.
Yeah, that was
humor
such
right
like
there.
a comedic
yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
And then him when he's like laughing
Are
at
you
all
done?
them like having the "Are you done yet?"
Are you
moment.
done?
That's like I went straight to Guardians 1 because like Star Lord has his speech before like the battle over what's the planet called?
Who cares?
Yeah, it does
Zan-
not matter.
Zan-
Xandar. Yeah,
Yeah.
Xandar.
It
For the battle over
matters
Xandar,
to
and
them.
the Rocket's like, we're all standing here in a circle.
Like
that
a
was
bunch
that was
of
like
idiots.
that exact comedic moment repeated,
Yeah.
but I was fine with it.
So yeah,
I
hashtag that.
felt like I loved his little comedic, like we needed that, and I liked that his character also had serious moments, but blended in there. Okay, so that was my probably top favorite moment, was that fight scene. Well, maybe not the fight, but as much as like the feelings around it. So my second favorite was actually the also like what you were saying, Kevin, the spirit scene with Killmonger. That like was a game changer in the movie for me. Like I didn't like Killmonger. I didn't like when he's coming in and he's just trying to he's like telling them this is my name and this is who I am. I'm like, gosh, shut it down. Get this guy out of here. And then like that probably led to me feeling like T'Challa's defeat is I was like, I know story-wise this is going to happen. This is where he's going down. But I just want him to be like, frick, man, you can take this chump. Like, he's talking so much smack. Just beat him. And then, like, it looks like T'Challa's a chump. And he's still talking smack. He's like, see, who is this, your king? And then we get this moment where we see him go into the spirit world. And we see all of his motivations, like, really there. And, like, you see, like, that he gets transformed into a kid, like, in the spirit world. Like, I love the mirroring between
great.
what
Yeah.
like T'Challa's experience and his experience. How they're like in that apartment,
Yeah,
and like
that
the
was
conversation he has with his dad is so different because his dad isn't like, my son, I'm so proud of you. Like like we're here to get. He's like, what? You're not even gonna cry for
Yeah,
me?
I was just gonna say that line. Like that was a perfect line. Like you're not even gonna cry over my death. Or, like,
Hashtag
they
this
get
is
to
us.
See me again.
And the kid actor was a dead ringer for young Michael B.
Oh my gosh!
Even like
so good.
the way he looked, the way he carried himself, like the cadence of speech.
That's because
like,
I think
dead
what he
on
was
Michael
talking is he's like
Michael B.
speaking
Jordan.
as current Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, it was so cool.
Like, yeah, and so like
Fantastic child performance.
the whole part. The whole part where like the dad is saying that, and it's almost like you can tell like Killmonger's motivations. He's like all about like his father, but his motivations are so far beyond that because he's been living his life not actually in revenge of his father, like, or else he'd be like, or if he has, it's been consumed.
I think he's
Like-
living his father's dreams. Like he's like, this is
Yeah.
what my father wanted to do. I'm gonna fulfill that. It wasn't just revenge for his dad. It was I will finish what my father has started.
Finish what you started. If you haven't seen the How It Should Have Ended for The Last Jedi, it is amazing. It's one of the best they've done in a while. My third favorite moment, South Korea club fight scene. I thought that personally was the best choreographed fight in the whole film.
Yeah, I agree.
100%.
So
100%, yeah.
we're gonna talk about our negatives, and I'll get into like the fighting and the action there. But like, yeah, for that fight scene on every character's level, like just you're right. The single panning like camera shot, all the moves, and just seeing them take on multiple guys at once and just being absolute bosses. Oh, geez, so cool.
Also, Claw has a mixtape. He was gonna link
Oh,
Ross
yes!
to
That was
SoundCloud.
so
that was
good.
hilarious.
That was
Yeah.
Such a great moment.
I loved
His
I loved
character.
all of Claw in this movie, but
Yeah.
like when he rolls up to the club with all of his guys and he's just like being Claw and just
Yeah.
like, being super flamboyant. I loved it.
That moment when they leave and he stops and turns around, he's like, "You guys, did you see? Like that
Yeah.
was
Yeah, that was
awesome,
great!"
Yeah,
Like-
and they're like, they're like,
come on, let's go!"
we gotta go."
Claw was awesome.
Your turn.
I loved it. I already did mine.
You did your top.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
started
right.
off.
You
Yeah, I
started.
started
Okay,
off.
then I'm gonna go into my top. I don't have them necessarily broken down, but I'll say like action. So like broad scale action-packed movie. I liked the flow of like dramatic moments, scene-based moments to action moments. My top actions were probably South Korea, the jungle convoy like ambush scene. Classic Black Panther. I don't know how many Panther comics I've read where it starts like that, where it's like this like unsuspecting group of people going through the jungle,
Yeah.
and
It felt
then
very much like the start of like the first issue of like a new story arc.
definitely.
And we have no idea still who those people were, or what was happening, and that's fine. You don't really have
Yeah,
to care.
we don't
I
care.
honestly don't care.
It's there to show off like
Yeah.
him and
Yeah.
like his
And the whole "did you flinch" thing was great.
yeah.
An antelope
Did you
in
freeze?
headline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought like
You're British.
I know. I don't know why my Dora Milaje is British.
no,
Sad.
It's better than your African, probably.
Probably.
but like apart from that, I felt like a lot of, and I think sometimes Marvel films fall into this trap because they're getting a little bit
It's a trap.
paint by numbers. They're getting a little bit like where we can just kind of throw an actor in a role and cover it up with like quick cuts and quick shots, like flashes between stunt doubles and like fast choreography and CGI, as opposed to like having the actors and the stuntmen like take time and practice to like really drawn out choreographed fight scenes.
Yeah.
So I felt like the final fight between Killmonger and Black Panther, I didn't feel like barely any of the intensity in it except in the last moment.
Yeah.
I just
Because it
see
was
it
all
like
CGI and
it's-
like stuff.
yeah, it's all
So, no,
CGI.
I
it's
didn't
all
like buy into
fast.
that fight.
Yeah,
all
the
that
camera's
much.
either really close or it's really far away. We don't have like a steady camera where we get to show off the martial prowess, which I think is one of Black Panther's greatest strengths. Is like he can go toe to toe with Captain America and probably win.
And I think
you
that
know?
first fight scene, like when he drops in on that convoy, is the best movie's like exposition of his powers.
Yes,
Where
yeah.
it's just
We
like,
almost-
Winter Soldier has like the same like drop our main hero into this, kick some butt, like show off like how powerful he is with like the Lumerian Star mission in Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
But Captain America's quality of action and your investment in each of the fights continues at that same level throughout
Well, and-
Winter Soldier. Whereas
Yeah.
Black Panther, I don't feel that.
Yeah.
All the
consistency
rest
in
of the
action.
fights, he doesn't have his Black Panther power.
Except for the very end. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for half of that fight, he doesn't have it because they're in the train.
In most
But
of it,
he has it in
looks
South
CGI.
Korea.
Yeah.
Like compare that final fight scene with like say Revenge of the Sith,
Yeah.
where Obi-Wan and Anakin, like Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor are going at each other, and it's great choreography, and you can tell
Really,
for the most part.
that's the fight scene you're gonna pick.
Yeah, because
You can't contest that that's an incredible,
right,
like an incredibly
and the people,
choreographed
like
fight
you're
scene.
invested in the conflict between those two characters because those are the actors are the ones doing the choreography.
I was gonna say
They did it for months.
Marvel almost needs some like Jason Bourne fight scenes.
Yes,
input.
100% agree with that statement.
What I mean by that is Matt Damon.
More pens and hands.
Yeah.
More
Yeah,
newspapers.
seriously.
rolled
Yeah,
up.
Yes.
yeah. Seriously, but like Matt Damon was doing those scenes,
Yeah.
and they would
there's- you buy
choreograph
into
them.
it.
And it's
Yeah, you do.
visceral,
And
visceral,
they
you
almost
feel
have
it.
a sense. The way they film those scenes is like they pull all the music out.
Yeah.
It's just sound effects and like grunts and
It
like
lets you know they're
painful
doing
noises, and you know, oh, these guys are grappling, and oh, he just stabbed him, and oh, he's dead now. Like, there's
it. That is how you watch that. scene.
seriously like, oh,
You remember it?
and now he's burning the building down to hide the body. Like,
Yeah.
As
that's
always.
seriously,
Jason
and so
Bourne.
like,
My
I
God.
agree. Like, I
It's
totally
Jason
agree.
Bourne.
And they're still like quick cuts. Like they're very quick, but they just feel more impactful.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're
And I think
quick,
real people
but
doing
you
real
know
Yeah.
they're really there.
You
Yeah.
can tell like just the spacing, like I was saying, the camera's either really in close, and so things are moving fast, like and too fast, for us to really like pay attention. Like, did they even make, like, did they even
Contact.
connect?
Yeah.
Or like, whereas those fight scenes, the camera is like at like a body length away, like a conversation's distance, where we can see their whole bodies and
Yep.
every move that they're making.
Yeah.
But my probably that was like my biggest thing. There wasn't too much that took me out of the film. Yeah, I told you about Claw, so like that was probably my next least favorite thing. But I also quickly got over it because I bought into the rest of the story. Like, but I had a little bit of that guard dog in me that reared up because I was feeling like, is this Mandarin all over again? Are they about to like freaking nerf?
They're about
Claw?
to Mandarin all over this.
But I liked Claw in what he got. Also, super cool design for his arm cannon. Am I right?
Yeah.
I
Better
thought
than, like,
that
his comic book.
CGI was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Hashtag arm cannon.
Was that CGI or was that? I want to
Was
know if
that a
that was
prosthetic?
practical.
It could have been.
I bet you
I think the rubber hand definitely.
The hand when he puts it up and bursts the glass.
Like, class.
I think that was practical.
That was cool because
But
you
it-
didn't know what it was. At least I didn't know what it was at that point. I'm like, oh, he's got
Yeah.
a cool hand thing going on there, and then he pulls out. It's a cannon. And you're like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
I think you could make that though. It literally just pops apart and then the cannon part pops up. I think you can make
Hashtag what a workshop.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously, you can make a prosthetic that where
Totally.
you just somebody off screen presses a button and it goes
Yeah.
pops out
Is
of
that the sound it makes?
I think so, yeah.
Is that-
I think that was
More or
Skywalker
less.
sound.
My
like,
arm chicken cannon.
The chicken
Um,
goes flying out.
I don't know if I have a third part.
That's
I
okay,
can't
We can keep moving.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can't tell you why it didn't have that pizzazz for me.
Top
like
one.
but I don't know.
I think I'll just go ahead and say my overall biggest
Critique.
critique was that it felt like an origin story in the same way, and I'm not saying it's like comparable to Homecoming, but kind of in the same way as Homecoming, where it held the character back a little bit,
Mhm.
which I think is you probably should do for an origin story because you need to save some for later. But I felt like yes, Ian.
Oh, so I remembered what my other least favorite thing was, but after your comment.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely felt like we got less Black Panther being cool in this movie than we did in Civil War.
Agreed.
And I
I felt
think
that, yeah.
and I think that is my biggest disappointment because in Civil War he was very, very cool. And I was really looking forward to seeing more of that, and I really don't think that I did. I think honestly the opening scene I thought was really cool. It
We
was
caught it,
very
yeah.
Black Panther. In the scene in like the gambling den in Korea, I thought like that was almost more the gals than T'Challa. Like I think
Even
it was
Captain
more
America.
Captain America was in this movie?
Well, no, even like
Oh.
more like
What?
Captain America in the sense like where he sneaks into a certain thing and then
Yeah.
everything goes wrong, and
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's
which was kind of cool. I liked actually seeing T'Challa outside of what I would consider his normal environment,
yeah.
having a James Bond moment.
Yeah, but I felt what you were saying when I watched. So I feel like in Civil War they just let Black Panther be the most BA he could because they were like he's
They
a
gotta
secret
sell it.
character like
Yeah, they gotta
who
sell
comes
him.
in
Move,
and like
or I will move you.
Yeah, he's
right?
new and
Love that.
cool. Like you gotta
he's
sell him.
super cool,
Yeah.
right? He almost steals the show from like his like little subplot, which ties so well in there. Like I feel for his scene with Zemo, like as much as I feel
I
for
love that
Tony
scene.
and Cap's
Great
scene.
scene.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Like,
I'm not like
but-
I want to get back to Tony and Cap in that. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I'm 100% invested in T'Challa's arc and where Zemo falls. in
Yeah,
that.
but all his stuff that's the thing is like all his stuff we see him tango with the Winter Soldier and we see him tango with Captain America and Iron Man and like in the big fight scene at the airport with all these other heroes that when he gets into
Whole lot of
like
tangoing.
when he gets
Hashtag.
back home and we're like, man, like why isn't he just putting down all these people like it almost feels
but
like
they're his people.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
almost kind of playing devil's advocate. It's like that was like a snapshot into his heroism,
yeah
but he's so much more of a character and his responsibility is so much more
yeah
that we almost have to get through a little bit of things that might seem redundant or kind of not as like
He has
Not
to
as-
fail to be the
exactly
hero.
yeah.
And I'll just say, like, I totally understand why this movie was the way that it was. I'll just say, for me personally, like, I almost wish that they had let the reins go loose, let him run around, like, just
Be
a
free.
little bit more because
Peter Panther,
I
run
like, just let him
around.
be, like, just so awesome.
through the grass.
And kill.
Just I'll say, like, I
Bring back a kill.
understand probably like why they made the choices that they did. I
Yeah.
just kind of wanted to see a little bit more awesome.
Yeah,
Sweet.
I think some. Go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, I was just gonna do my big
Go for it.
disappointment. I'm just gonna do one. And you guys might totally disagree with me. I was a little
I totally
under.
disagree.
Okay, of course.
Marty disagreeing.
Sorry.
I
Go ahead, Kevin.
Continue.
Thank you. The end battle, I was underwhelmed.
Yep.
yeah
I was
I think
totally.
the first 2/3 of this movie are way stronger.
Yeah.
than the
I was
last
like,
third.
they got like 40 extras in there to make it look cool, but
It felt like Lion in the Witch in the Wardrobe.
this is like
Yeah, it
this
did.
is
A
like
little bit.
this is like a kingdom, and this is all the people they could get to this. Like this is just one fight right here, and this is all the people they could get. Like, don't they have an army or something going on here?
Kevin, that's coming in Infinity War. Didn't you not
Well,
see the trailer?
I understand
save
that.
this for
I
later.
understand that,
To
but
fight the hordes of Thanos.
but there still could have been a part of that in there. Like, okay, they got like 3 rhinos. Like, okay,
I'll
cool.
I'll contest
One
that a little
spaceship.
bit.
They've only got one.
I'll contest that a little bit, and then I think like it was supposed to be just like this small little group of
I
people.
like the scale of it,
Like, yeah,
and I think there's important moments in that, but I just don't think
the
I don't think it's as strong as the first 2/3 of the movie. I'm not
Yeah.
as near as invested.
I'm okay with the scale and the players involved, but like the action, the pacing, the way it's like shot, and the way that like the most thrills I felt out of that whole fight was when Shuri almost got taken down.
Yep.
I was like, Frick, get there, T'Challa. If you don't like, if they stab
You kill
Shuri in this
Shuri,
film,
I
like,
swear.
that's what I said
I'm
in
gonna
the
flip my
theater.
popcorn.
And then the other intense moment I felt was Okoye with like,
Ooh, yeah, the guy that we can never remember.
yeah,
Which is
Waka-
her
Waka-
Rhino
husband?
guy.
Her lover.
Her
Yeah,
lover.
They never
M'Baku,
say it's her husband.
M'Baku.
They
Yeah,
they
say
just
it's her
say it's
kind of
lover.
Yeah,
ambiguous.
and what I,
Kinda,
you know, what I
yeah.
liked is
She picks the kingdom, and it's such like a.
No,
awesome,
it's
such a moment.
With M'Baku or with Wakabi? Because-
Okoye.
Yeah.
Rhino guy.
I can't.
No,
With
Rhino
M'Baku.
guy is
M'Baku.
Wakabi. No.
Oh, Wakabi?
M'Baku is the gorilla guy.
You're right.
Guys,
You're
guys,
right.
guys, I have the IMDb right
I
here.
do too, and I'm still messing it up.
Which is interesting because she picked the kingdom over.
Which
the-
is awesome.
yeah.
And it's consistent with
Yeah.
what I would believe her character would have done.
Yeah,
Because
she
she picked Killmonger in the
Yeah,
beginning.
because she's like, I gotta support
Or
the
T'Challa's
throne.
family, yeah.
Although
Yeah.
she
She's-
technically
she's
did
kinda
turn away
like-
from him at one point, but that's
Because
kinda
it
like
wasn't
Secret
legitimate
Service.
because the challenge was not completed.
Yeah, that's true. But it's just, it shows her character. She's like, I support the kingdom, and the kingdom first.
Yeah.
I'll
Kingdom
say,
come.
like, one of the things Cassie and I always like, we put our stamp on when we see something in a movie and we're like, oh, this is good, is when they show us something rather than tell us something like verbatim. They're like, oh, look, this is what I'm thinking and
Yeah.
feeling, and this is what
Less
all of my
exposition.
intentions are, as opposed to like just showing us stuff because we can infer it.
Yeah, let
and
us
so I
figure it
like,
out.
you get one moment where like we don't have this drawn out romance between those two characters. You get one moment like near the beginning where they call each other beloved and they kind of look at each other, and then there's nothing for the rest of the film.
And you like forget it almost
Yeah.
until that
But when that
scene.
moment comes,
when that moment, you're
the
like,
payoff
oh
is there.
crap!
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
It's-
it
And
comes
then
back.
he submits.
and like you
and
feel it,
it's-
Yeah.
like, but you see him thinking about, like, he's like, "Would you really kill me?" Like, and she's like, "Yeah, I would," and he's like,
And
"Frick, okay."
Hashtag feminism.
Yeah.
So anyway, Kevin,
Yes,
that's your downside.
that was my main one. Yes.
Yeah, I don't. The last third of the movie, I think I would have enjoyed a few more scenes with Killmonger. Like, as great as he is, but just towards the end, I feel like it was less more. I'm a bad guy. I'm doing the bad things. But there's
A little
I feel
bit.
like I lose a little bit of just connection with Killmonger in the last third.
when
once
he
gets
gets
to
the
film.
suit,
Yeah.
except for when, so in that final fight scene, once he gets stabbed, boom, I'm there again.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm back. But there's a little bit of like third act, just spectacle that we've seen a bajillion times in a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And there's great character moments within that.
Martin
But it's
Freeman getting
honestly-
the piloting thing,
That was
like,
great.
great.
But I was just way less invested because I'd
Yeah.
seen it all before in a bunch of other Marvel movies
Yes.
than I was the first 2/3 of the movie.
what you got, Isaac?
Yeah, I'll make mine quick. That first ritual fight, I think it goes back to just the visual effects, which you talked about, Logan. And I heard this. I can't take full credit for this. I heard this from Chris Stuckman. You guys know Chris Stuckman? He's a YouTube reviewer. But
I do not know him.
anyways, he mentioned this. I watched his review of Black Panther today. But he talked about how one of his negatives was for some reason, they keep showing that cliffside, and it almost looks like copy and pasted CGI civilians, like just layered upon layered. And I'm kinda
Oh,
like,
yeah.
that doesn't look super great.
I know you're talking about.
And then I think we said it earlier too. A couple of the scenes where they're quickly fighting in water looks like they did that. Like it looks like it transitioned to CG water, and then they obviously go back to a dialogue scene, and you're like, oh yeah, they're standing in water. Like that's really happening. But it kind of. Do you guys remember the Jungle Book? John Favreau's The Jungle Book.
The
Where
new one.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was
where
great.
there's moments in that. Obviously, that is an incredible visual effects masterpiece.
Yeah.
But there's still some moments where, man, water is challenging. And so if
Yeah.
you're gonna CG water and mix it with real water, like that's pretty tough. Like you almost just got to go one or the other. So that kind of bothered me, but wasn't that bad. Then I think we talked about it already a little bit, but the textures of the
I'm
black.
okay with it.
I'll let it slide. 10 out of 10.
It's okay.
It's like
The-
water off my back.
Yeah. The textures of the Black Panther suit, I did not like it CG version. But when it's like real, he's wearing it
Yes.
and he's in a costume, I'm like, that's amazing. Give me more of that.
Yeah.
And when you have a film like this where almost every other character is wearing fully texturized costumes,
Incredible costume.
they're amazing. And the colors are amazing. And all that stuff's like really visually stunning. And then you get to a quick fight scene like we talked about, and you can totally tell it's a CGI suit. I'm like,
It's a little distracting.
I'd rather you slow that down, give us more Jason Bourne-ish type fighting,
Instead
and
of
have him in the
rubber-
costume.
Rubber guys. Like,
Yeah, like have him in the costume. So
And
because
that's
those
one of the-
costumes, that is like one of my favorite Marvel costumes. Is his Black Panther
Yeah.
costume? It is like
100%.
so sick.
It's so good.
I don't know if I liked the whole like purple absorbing the energy and
I
then
thought that was cool.
I think there were some cool
redistributing it.
moments that came from it.
I agree. I don't know if I liked the whole like purple thing.
Yeah.
I think I could have kept it like just tell us, but again, they have to like it's just part of it. So, but yeah, I wish I could have seen more of the actual texture.
That's one of my
textured
criticisms
costume.
of Civil War too. Is like it's so blatant when he goes to like a CGI suit
Yeah,
versus like practical suit, and that for me like it always like there's like certain parts of that like tunnel chase scene that throw me off because of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in Star Wars in the Force Awakens, like you're seeing those First Order stormtroopers, like they're in they're in a suit.
They're in a costume. Yeah.
And you see that almost every scene of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the texture and the way the light reflects off the material and all that stuff. And
it helps because
even
even
in
those
the-
are practical sets too.
totally, and even in the Solo trailer, you see some of that too.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just that I love that kind of the light reflecting and the way it plays off real textures is really cool. So that was a bummer to not see that as much.
Yeah.
My
In
last
the
thing-
prequels, well, before we move
Yeah,
on,
yeah,
like you're so much to go back. Like in the prequels, you see clone troopers and like they're cool and they're awesome. But when you
CGI.
watch the CGI clone
CG,
troopers,
yep.
but when you watch it alongside like Force Awakens and like Last Jedi stormtroopers, it's such a huge difference.
Totally. My last thing is I think you mentioned it a little bit, or we were all talking about it. Can't remember, but I want to see Marvel not end with a third act fight scene, meaning battle scene.
Like,
I think
like
Civil
all out
War,
battle.
Though. Civil War though did
so. That was different. That was
Which
that
I
was
loved.
that's what I loved
Yeah.
too. It was heroes together.
Mhm.
This was like, okay, now we have kind of an army. They're more like squads because they weren't like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I'm like, okay, we've seen this too many times. It's either on land, it's either in space. I think looking forward to Infinity War, it's gonna again play. It's similar, big picture stuff, but again, I think it's gonna play into that different category because we've united all these heroes,
Yeah.
and they're against one crazy bad guy who we've been teasing for 10 years, you know.
Yeah.
And so that I'm excited for.
It's
This
kinda
one,
like,
again,
this is a
felt
bad
underwhelming.
parallel, but like it's a parallel to Apocalypse where we're going up against one bad guy and we're all going to fight him. But obviously, it's going to be way better done than that.
I
because
would
Apocalypse
surely
sucked.
hope so.
Yeah.
It was better than that
Oh, God.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of disappointed me. It was just very, like you said, underwhelming.
Yeah, it brings down the movie.
Yeah, I want to see something different. I want to see them do, like, almost like incorporate more like
Dark Knight's a great example of that.
Yeah,
Does
like,
not end. It arguably the most satisfying ending of any superhero movie ever, but it's not a CGI spectacle. It's
Kevin does
I
not
do
agree.
not agree with the ending of Dark
I
Knight.
do not
We can-
endorse
we can
that
move on.
statement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unlike just a final thought on that, I just realized like I'm so not into the setting of the final Black Panther showdown. Like I wasn't thinking about the fact that they were gonna tease that for later, like the whole thing where it's like, oh yeah, the Sonic, it nullifies or negates the vibranium, so like it's easier to transport. I didn't think like when they said that, I was like, oh cool. I didn't think they were gonna be like, so we can have our final fight scene on the train
I
tracks.
didn't
Like,
even,
That
I
was
didn't even
great
get that
foreshadowing.
though because
But I
the
didn't ca-
train goes by and they're not even fighting.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
Like,
it took me out of
wait,
the moment a little
what?
bit, and I
it
was
just gave
kind
them a
of.
moment to talk.
And the whole thing's CGI too. So
Yeah,
it's just like,
it was a
I
bummer.
just didn't like that. I like that it separated them from everybody else, but I thought it was kind of a lame place to have like the final showdown.
Also, I was getting Phantom Menace vibes.
I was just gonna say that
Yes.
when you know
Obi-Wan's
the,
on
yeah,
one side
and-
of the screen and
yeah,
Maul's on the other.
Yeah, and they're just staring. They're talking. They're not talking.
That's
but
why
they're
I
staring
think
at
it
each
could have
other.
been
Yeah.
something
I
new.
think
And
it's a little
here's
bit of
here's
an
the thing.
unkind
You put those
comparison.
two guys on a practical set with real light, or even on location, and have the final fight scene be out in the daylight and
Yes.
location, and you add some different stylized fighting to that, you're gonna have a scene that's like kind of mesmerizing to everybody.
On top of that, I think it would have added weight if it was in light of everybody else. Like it would have added just weight to their characters.
Yeah.
To have their showdown again, not be like one-on-one where it's kind of like just the two of them, but like in front of an audience where the audience can see T'Challa come out as like the victor, but you can still like have it be far enough away from other people where they get that personal, like intimate moment
Yeah.
of conversation.
I think you could, and then you could do the sunset scene. Like that could be happening in the background of the fighting. Like that
Yeah.
could be part of it. Instead of, I felt like it was kind of an awkward transition where he's like, "All right, I'm gonna take you up to see."
I'm gonna carry you.
Yeah, I know you're
it
dying
was
and
a
all,
cool
but
character
hang
moment.
on,
Yeah,
hang
I know I
on, dang
just-
it,
I
we
know I
gotta
just
see that
stabbed you.
sunset.
It was a great character moment though.
It was, but it was weird to get there. I'm like, okay, you stabbed him, and now you're gonna. And I thought
in an
Killmonger
elevator.
was gonna try like pull the knife out and
Yeah.
stab him
And
back.
and then he's
but,
like,
yeah.
maybe we
Yeah.
can save you, and it's like, that part again leaned too into the like kid movie type.
But I know actually I love that moment because it showed the compassion and love of T'Challa.
But if he really wanted to save him, why didn't he spend the time that he took taking him out to see the sunset, taking him up to the med bay,
Yeah, the hospital bay.
where treatment was easily
where they
available.
could actually save
Now that
him.
I've brought you here,
Because
we
T'Challa-
can probably save you.
But you really wanted to see the sunset, so here we are.
But I think T'Challa is a normal human, and he had to work through to get to that point.
Yeah.
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 Which is also you mentioned this in the theater. I think that's why he lets him go the first time.
Yeah.
It's human error. It's him getting caught up by like seeing the ring and being like, "What the crap?" Also, he just got thrown against like a trash can or whatever.
Yeah,
and he's
well,
like,
that was one of my things I was confused by. Me, I'm like, why did when we rescued Claw, when Killmonger rescued Claw, why didn't we just chase after?
Yeah, I heard you
chase
talk about that.
after
Yeah,
and,
well,
and Claw and Killmonger. I'm like, I don't understand why. Why didn't
Again,
we do that?
I
know
think
you
it
saw a
plays
ring,
into the
but-
cliches of what we've seen before,
Yeah.
which is a bummer. Like you almost want that to happen, but you know it's not because they need another.
Because it's
they
a
need the story
movie.
to
It felt-
continue.
Yeah.
It felt like less because we're not gonna go after them because of like a character or story reason. It
Because
felt-
the plot demands
demanded
it.
Exactly, and that took me out of the movie, and I was genuinely confused. By that
Also,
moment.
one thing, I'm sorry, I know we should move on, but one thing that took me out of the movie was at the end when he gets stabbed, doesn't like the suit have like healing powers or something? Doesn't he
yeah,
have like
doesn't
healing
like the Black
powers
Panther
as
abilities?
the Panther?
Yeah,
Can
but when
he
you have a
really
knife
die
stuck
from
in
a-
you,
one
like-
knife wound.
And it
Come
was a
on.
One,
he
vibranium.
come
wasn't
on.
dead yet either.
It was a
had to,
vibranium knife,
play
though,
with the
right?
knife in like his stomach. In
Did
order
he?
to
I thought he
die.
just
And wasn't a
took it out.
vibranium knife?
I thought he pulled
Yeah.
it
So
out.
could've
I thought he
done
pulled
that.
it out
Did he
too.
pull it
He
out?
pulled out and he bled out.
Some
that's how I,
debate. Anyway, that kind of took me out. I was like,
We'll never
isn't there
know.
some sort of like magical Black Panther healing power?
So,
Let's
Let's move to
let's talk about
MCU
where we
rankings.
rank it in the
So let's just do like a quick. We don't all need to come up with like official group list for MCU rankings. Logan and I are actually going to do that on a different episode. But
Oh, I see how it is. We can't be part of the official group list.
well, I mean,
Whoa.
you can throw in your comments later. Actually, everybody listening, you can add in your comments what you think also. But let's hear from each of you guys. Just kind of like, you don't have to give us the whole list of titles, but whereabout you think it kind of fits, like top 3, middle, bottom, like if
Top
you know
5.
2 movies that it's like in between, kind of thing. So let's go with you, Kevin.
Sorry,
And
I jumped
No,
the gun there.
go for it.
Top 5. I thought it was great. It didn't have quite some of the moments like in Civil War that really just like hit you, but I thought just the ideas that I was talking about that we were talking about earlier with the themes of the movie just elevated it to a position above for the rest of them. And I might not be as good as some of the other ones, but I think the things that it was saying and it was trying to say
Yeah.
make it that next level
It was
where it's not
significant.
just another Marvel movie. This movie's trying to say things about race issues and feminism and all this kind of stuff that other Marvel movies are too scared or just unwilling to talk about. So I thought that was a really
Yeah.
why it's such a great movie to me.
Cool. Isaac?
For me, I put it number 3. Actually.
really?
Bold.
Really?
Yeah, and
Alright.
above it I have Ragnarok number 2.
Ooh.
Ragnarok's 2 for you?
Ooh.
It
That
is.
was gonna well, just before we move on from that, who likes Ragnarok more than this movie?
No.
I don't like it more, but
I
I,
like
do
it more.
like it.
No.
You like it more?
Yeah, I like it. So Isaac and I are Team Ragnarok over this.
Yeah, and it's close. I think I got more. They're different though. That's the thing.
One's a
That's
comedy
why.
and one's
Yeah,
like a serious
Ragnarok.
dramatic
Ragnarok. I really liked Taika Waititi's kind of like directing style and his humor, and Korg was a hilarious
film.
character.
Korg's amazing.
Like his one-liners, I
Speaking
So
found
good.
myself going back.
Get out of
and
here,
looking up-
ghost!
Seriously,
Piss
all-
off, ghost.
All of Logan's characters are
Seriously,
British.
that was hilarious, and that's just like New Zealand humor and stuff. That was just awesome.
It's so good.
And then I kept Civil War number 1.
Okay.
That viewing experience and that film just holds up for me, and I'm so excited for what the Russos are going to do with Infinity War. I think it's just going to be amazing. So
Sweet.
I'll go next. So because I'm kind of right there with you. I've got Civil War, like as top for me, Winter Soldier, Avengers, and Guardians of the Galaxy 2 coming in strong. But
I like that.
I think, man, this movie is beaten out a lot for me. Even though I said like I had all these high expectations about the character, and I didn't feel like they were all met. When you kind of like what Kevin was saying, when you take in all the themes and just like the like the really good execution of that. If I think about action wise, it doesn't beat Avengers or Winter Soldier or Civil War or any of those like viewing experiences in the theater. But if I think about quality of film, it's coming in right at number 5 for me, behind Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
I think I'd put it someplace similar, only Guardians 2 would be at quite a different place on my list.
We argue about this a lot.
Consistently.
I love Guardians.
Every night before bed.
Discuss. But yeah, I think my list, I mean, yeah, just the classics, Winter Soldier, Civil War, Avengers.
Winter
Those are...
Soldier's your top?
Yeah, I think it might just beat out Civil War. But yeah, so those are like my top 3, you know, more or less. And then I think, I think I kind of put it in a similar spot. It's definitely over like Homecoming and like most of like.
You know what I?
Sir.
No.
Wow.
That
I'm
was
surprised
a
sir.
raspberry of agreement.
Oh,
Homecoming.
Oh, really? Oh,
Okay,
That was a
no,
raspberry
listen,
of
I like
affirmation.
Homecoming, and also I thought of something while we were talking. Both of these movies, both Homecoming and Black Panther,
The movie
like
we just
we
watched.
talked about like how they kind of like what they're doing with taking these characters that
Yeah.
both had their start in Civil War. Both films, I was impressed, chronologically start immediately after Civil War.
That is
It was a
true.
week after
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was true. That was interesting.
I liked that.
Like, bam, we're there.
Well,
Like,
I think
yeah.
it's obvious that the end credit scene with Bucky, though, takes place at a dramatically different time after
Oh yeah,
whatchamacallit, Black Panther. Much closer to Infinity War.
He's recovered from
it's all you,
cryo.
man. The definitive statement on MCU rankings.
Bum,
So
bum,
I got
bum,
number 1, Winter Soldier.
ba-dum,
Number 2, Civil War.
ba-dum,
Number 3, Avengers.
bum, bum.
Number 4, Guardians of the
Oh
Galaxy.
man, it's down there.
Number 5, Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Whoa.
Number 6 is going to be a controversial one, Captain America: The First Avenger.
That's not
That's
that
not so
controversial.
In some circles, that's a controversial.
That's
decision.
because we're ultimate fans and we
We're also
know
more
what
of a
is
square
best.
than a circle, so therefore, in our square.
Number
not.
7, Thor Ragnarok. Number 8, Black Panther.
Coming in top 10.
No
Right.
love for like original Iron Man and like.
No. There's
Iron Man's 11
it's-
for me.
For me, it's like
Just
they're getting like what Logan said
They're
in Phase
progressing.
3. They're
Yeah.
starting to bat at that. Like I don't think it's quite a formula, because what I think was they found a formula in Phase 2. We like Winter Soldier because it's a great film. It broke that mold.
Yeah.
It's
And now-
surprising. It has great performances. It serves lots of different characters. The
Yeah.
action is a way higher step up.
So now we have films where we're seeing like this, like catering to different directors who have different visions of like what this movie can
And we're
be
trusting them instead of like
Mhm.
like. Yeah.
not trusting
Yeah, you
them
can
like
tell
we did
they
with,
gave
like,
Ryan
Thor 2 and
Coogler-
Avengers
Yeah.
2.
Like Ryan Coogler had creative
Just like Taika
decisions.
Waititi
He was
has-
making
has
this
creative
happen.
control
with
Totally.
Ragnarok.
Creative control and
Yeah.
which I love. I really appreciate
And that's why
that.
I
Me
think
too.
like
It just
we
proves how,
we
like,
like all
It
these
makes
films
stronger
a lot.
films.
It
Yeah,
does.
they're stronger because we're not just comparing them off of like the last Marvel movie or like the previous Iron Man film. It's because like they're starting to like, even though they're built off of so much, they kind of are standing alone more because we're appreciating different unique aspects of them. Thor Ragnarok is a comedy. Like, so you almost can't, like, comparing it to Black Panther puts it on a different level, right?
Mhm.
So
They're
That's why
doing-
they're,
This
they're
was a-
almost like the same ranking for me. Those two, because one gives comedy, one gives more cultural.
It was more
Uh,
dramatic film.
yeah, we're not talking about racism in Ragnarok.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're not
Um,
talking about anything in Ragnarok. We're
we're
just
Oh
having-
no,
we're having-
we are talking. We're talking about naked
Talking
Hulk.
about like
What?
yeah, we're talking about pantsless Hulk. That's what we're talking about, and
that
it's a great
was
time.
honestly surprising to me.
Yeah, I loved that. Yeah, forget what I was gonna say. Sweet. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. It was nice to have a dramatic film after 3 comedies.
Yes.
I was getting a little like more Marvel comedy, which I love, but I was
you
like,
think Doctor Strange is a comedy?
So 2 comedies.
I think
Because you're talking about
for me,
Ant-Man and Guardians
Doctor
of the
Strange was
Galaxy.
almost on the
No,
like.
I'm talking about Guardians of the Galaxy and Spider-Man.
Oh, I totally forgot about. Yeah, Spider-Man: Homecoming. I think
And
that's
Thor.
just a high
No,
school
that
film.
is 3. It's Thor
Yeah.
Ragnarok, Guardians 2, and Spider-Man. Those are all comedies. I was nice to have a dramatic Marvel film.
When did Guardians 2 come out? Was it August?
It was last
This
May.
last year.
Last
yeah.
May.
May. That's right.
It has
So
not
was-
been that long, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
All
so, yeah,
right.
we've had
3.
3 films. Yeah, that's crazy.
Anybody have anything just beating on their hearts that they want to get out?
I know we probably don't have too much time to talk about this, but I just again loved the way they showed the race issue in this movie, and they're just talking about the different sides of the coin.
Yeah.
So like, it was the way they handled it was so tactful, and they weren't like trying to push a certain agenda or anything like that. They're just like, here are two sides of this issue. Here's how one side can feel like they need to rise up and fight.
People are what matters.
Yeah, and the other side is like, no, that turns us into them. So
Yeah.
I really thought that was powerful.
I thought the handling of the issues, and like, just total disclaimer, we are a room full of white people right now talking about this for our listeners, but like, we all have plenty of friends and our own experiences with these issues, but like, yeah,
I mean, now is the time to talk about this.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
in
Yes.
America today, this is an issue, and so this movie just really harps on that, and
but in a
just-
good way.
in a good way, and
Yeah,
it has
absolutely.
a message to say.
Well, it presents it in a realistic and compelling way
Yeah,
as
Yeah.
a story,
Which
not
is
as
funny
an
because it's
agenda.
such an unrealistic story, but like, yeah.
Well, because that's what gives us the opportunity to talk about it, is because we can look at it with so much more objectivity when it's taken out of the context that we see it in so often.
and then we won't immediately take a side because we'll be like, oh, they're that
Yeah.
side or they're this side. We can be like, okay, this is a fairy tale, this is a story, but they still have something to
Yeah.
say that then we can look at and
I also feel it's incumbent upon me as the woman in the room to just extol that there were just so many awesome women
They were.
in this, like, really, and honestly, like, there were just so many awesome women, and the movie almost took it for granted in a good way.
Yeah.
Which is
Which is, I think,
what you want.
Yeah.
Because we're not talking like talking about like, oh yeah, like we need to have like strong, compelling like females
it
in
wasn't
this movie. Like,
hey, look
we're
over
just
there
like,
at that
these
great
women,
woman and
like
what they
these
did.
women are leading and these women are warriors because like that's what they are, and
Yeah.
everyone is just like,
natural in their
yeah,
culture.
that's just the way it is.
Right. It was never at the sake of. It was never at the detriment of the other gender.
Right.
Yeah.
and it wasn't like because we've had Black Widow, but she's kind of a sexy kind of fighter. Like you
I mean,
know,
they-
she's this
they was
a
sexy.
sexy character, but they were like powerful women who weren't
Yeah.
sex objects per se. Like
Yeah.
they
Totally.
were.
I don't know, when they rolled up in that South Korea club, I was like, whew.
but they didn't
all
like
right.
focus on it or
Yeah.
anything like
Well,
that.
like
That's a part of a woman.
they weren't
Yeah.
like they weren't using their sexuality in the same way that like
Black Widow
Natasha
does,
does.
Yeah.
They were just talking about like, ugh, this like wig and this dress are so annoying. Like,
Also, I just love the juxtaposition of like African culture against like other things. Like the wig. Like that was such a funny line. She's like, just
Ew,
swish
what
it back and forth. And she's like, what? No.
Yeah.
what are you talking about? So anyway, that's my like last 2 cents. Like, if anything, like if nothing else, go see this movie because there are a lot of like real strong women in it, and that's awesome.
Well, thanks for joining us this week on Ultimate Fan Podcast. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or send us an email with your thoughts or comments at ultimatefanpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, be on the lookout for the rest of our MCU episodes coming up soon. We're going to be watching every Marvel film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe leading up to Infinity War. So make sure to be on the lookout for those episodes, and I hope you join us for those.
Yeah, also leave us a comment on any of your podcast services or on Facebook, all those other social medias that you can hook up. Like, get in on this discussion of like this movie and the like thoughts it presents about racism and or just like
what you
social
thought of the movie.
justice. Yeah, and also what you thought of the movie, what you think of the MCU, and if you like this, give us a like or subscribe, and we'd love to keep giving you what we got. So once again, thanks for joining us on Ultimate Fan Podcast. Thanks to Isaac, Kevin, and Cassie for chilling with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Ian Unger.
And I'm Logan.
See you next time.